already obviously starting on the likes of the home side. You got Converse, the guys we're talking about, the guys we're hyping up, the ones who haven't lost a game here in a very long while, except for week 3, which is just an outstanding look for them. Knowing you get time to adjust, it's Moby, it's JSP, it's J. Cruel, Wildfire, and Excite. Obviously, players that I think I've seen before. I feel like obviously should be pretty darn prevalent when it comes under the collegiate scene, but obviously over there on the other side of the end and the better side of the coin, quite frankly, is going to be the UCF Gold. Jason, Scotty, Sniper, Rudy, and Squaremore. A little bit of weird names going out. Apparently, people love to put J before their name. Maybe it's a new rapper theme. I'm not really quite sure what's going on there, but hey, if they get to that kind of point, maybe it's a trend in the Valorant community.
Hey, you know, hopefully the Valorant accent isn't trending as well on the collegiate side of the Valorant community. But yes, like we have some very interesting names here. And to be fair, if you got a cool name, got to go ahead and rock it. But you also have to be able to rock it alongside your team. And you can make callouts a little bit difficult. And you got to have good callouts on some of the maps we have here today. Breeze Split were taken off. Haven and Bind were as well. But Ascent, Lotus being picked up for the first 2. Lotus is a bit of a shocker. Not in the end of playoffs, though. That's not too surprising.
Yeah, no.
It's Sunset, which has been surprisingly popular here in the NECC as our would-be decider should it is required.
It's been popular, quite frankly, everywhere, really. Sunset was one of those maps that right off the get-go, obviously teams were a little bit more kind of shaky on how that map played out and what kind of agent compositions. That was the biggest adjustment we were looking at over the course of this. They not only had the luxury of just kind of winning out a lot of these matches, but even then, at the very end of the season, take a forfeit, probably take a week off for grades and say, look, once it gets around to break time, we are full gear for these matches to come up that we can actually sack the loss, not even care about it. Records aren't even a matter of the fact to us because we can just keep on chugging along like absolutely nothing matters. But speaking of nothing that matters, compositions. Here on Ascent, it doesn't matter. There's something tried and true that's worked for so darn long that we didn't talk about it purely because we knew this mirror was coming up.
Yeah, who else? Sova, KJ, Jets, Omen, and KO all on the board for both sides, and it's going to come down to a differential between the players individually, not necessarily the agents in use for either side. When you have a mirror composition, there's typically the duelists that stand out as being diffed between the two individuals. I know we've highlighted that a couple times with big rosters we've seen in other leagues as well in the early stage of the NECC before playoffs started.
Yep.
But when your duelist is a Jet and the only duelist for a map like Ascent, I would dare say the more important agent to worry about is going to be the Omen and the KO. The KO with the 0 point to knock down utility and rushes and get information, and the Omen who is responsible for these dark covers, the paranoias for rushes forward, and the denial of information and pushes on a retake. Those are going to be paramount to the success you're hoping for on either side.
Yeah, I hate to go back to my COD roots a little bit, but it really just comes down to timing on this map. Obviously, adjustments and gunfights, it really comes down to a lot. I mean, making sure, as you mentioned, those smokes, that knife, everything has a certain amount of time behind it. So it really comes down to how you really manipulate these windows to your favor. And already going ahead, getting that first gunfight right down the middle, you're going to see pretty quick exchange of here over to the A site. And I love this move coming out. Take tree control. Don't default early. Go ahead and switch things up. So when you go for these regular hits on side of these main avenues of the map, nothing's really expected too much. Did you see J. Cruel finding finally an exchange here?
Well, UCF Gold have advantage now over the site. The plant is down. The difficulties now arise for Converse Nightblood to retake the objective. Getting 1 kill up on top of rafters from J. Cruel, like you mentioned. No frag back, and with only pistols, the door has become much more of a mountain than a single wall that blocks all avenues of approach. Paranoia around the bend. This is where your Omen steps up to the plate. Gets spotted with a nice use of the sonar vault, but it will not matter. J. Cruel gets 3 total in the round. Down below the defuse Wildfire until they get snuck up upon the coverage.
Oh my
it's an
God.
ace from J. Cruel everywhere in this round, and a win for Converse Nightblood.
Obviously, a huge start here on the board for J. Cruel, not just in terms of getting that ace, getting the pistol round, sure, that's great, but already going ahead and getting yourself on a massive start, having all those credits to work with, you can go for a full purchase. Sure, the Bulldogs being what's opted here for, but quite frankly, you see if maybe a duelist more times than not, if they get that string of kills together, they opt for the Vandal, they opt for the Phantom, they get the full armor, they say, who cares what utility, I can buy it in the next one. So as I get 3 more kills right now, I got an ultimate to work with in the next. Sadly, it's not your Jet. That's not blades being used there. So you're looking for an alternative here. And quite frankly, the Bulldogs would be great there. Knowing you get 2 players on the board that have that good to work with. And you know that even then more so you're slowing down UCF here early to once again see what they do. But they're going for that same exact move. Just lurking right across that catwalk. Looking for a nice little lurk there towards the B side to kind of get things to swap up. But quite frankly, honestly, they don't want to give up too much because they don't have the full rifles yet. And they don't know once again what these main hits are going to look like. But already Converse has an idea of how that's going to go because they're set up on the main themselves like they're the ones attacking.
Push comes out from UCF Gold in through tree, leaving one straggler of Scotty down towards bottom mid. The rest of the team, though, pivoted up through garden, and now where you'd kind of expected to be rushed onto the A site, though it's a flank round through defender Spawn and Moby, who had a ghost bot for them by your KO of J-Crew, who went crazy in the last round, is able to scrape not just one, but two up to this point off the board. Converse Nightblood, despite acquiescing first blood, clap back for two, and UCF Gold are forced to scurry away from the B site they were hoping for, and now have free reigns in towards A. And with a pumping player, J-Crew caught off. Scormer can't get a second, but that alleviates so much pressure, Dallas, now for the retake with only a one-man disadvantage on Converse's hands.
And even then, you got to figure out how you're going to allocate these weapons, right? I mean, sure, Moby has the ghost in hand, but you got to make sure to get close enough to carry on these weapons in the next round. Moby needs to run over, probably grab one of those bulldogs, and there was a guardian, remember, to pick up as well. So there's so many resources here that Converse has to hold on to, not only just for the sake of winning this round, which you're expecting to do, but you got to look at the next one as well. You got to see what's being done, and even more so, you barely have any time to get it done. So you got every single angle, and Moby is able to do exactly that. I said pick him a different gun, but quite frankly, with the prowess Moby has in that ghost, good God, I think it's just good enough. Quite frankly, against at least when nobody's running armor, but in a round like this, you're going to see full purchases across the board.
Can we tally that up for J-Crew? J-Crew gets the 5 kills at the end of round 1, aces it, buys the Bulldog, has 1,400 credits, realizes the utility for Moby is more important in the long term, buys them a ghost to drop down to 1,000, and then from there, you're looking at Moby going, okay, I will hold the torch, I will take over, I will hold the reins, and gets a 4K in the very next round with J-Crew's weapon of choice bought for them. That is a tandem duo we're now going to be looking towards as the most dangerous factor for success on the defense so far of Converse Nightblood, but this will be the true testament to that success. Third round in, UCF Gold with a full buy on their hands, and Converse losing plenty of weapons in the previous round will need to think twice about every engagement they take, and the first one may just be here towards B main.
And that Marshall, I mean, keep in mind, that's one of those kind of weapons that can actually have the prowess compared to the likes of their guns inside of this round. It comes down to whether or not you can actually find those angles. And even then, hearing the Marshall shots into the last round, you got to give credit to UCF for not wanting to go right down that mid route again. I mentioned it earlier. They want to go ahead and make sure to save their kind of spread plays when it comes around to those actual main hits for later rounds once they get the guns to work with. They don't want to give up too much. I mean, we talked about saving struts earlier. You can only save so much in the course of a match. You want to make sure to whip it out when it actually matters the most. Try to save as many weapons as possible in a round like this, but even then still, the swing comes out, JSP's able to go in from round 1, and that's going to be a free gun to pick up if you hear enough bodies coming through the middle of the map.
Oh, do they know that it's free to grab? They relocated back towards the hall side of B to try and help the teammates with the rush out that comes in through market. Excite, full flash, JSP as well goes down in the aftermath, and even a fragment. If you want to make matters worse, it's one player, Moby, who had gotten the 4K in the previous round, now required to do the exact same thing here. Yeah, Bulldog is pretty darn good, but your job is not necessarily to win, it's to make it pricey for the side of UCF Gold, which your team unfortunately just didn't do a good enough job for up to this point. They're stuck within the dark cover. Former, more likely the player to take the kill and or be killed. They'll pivot back over towards the backside of Boathouse, and it will not matter. Rudy from up on the market stairs takes down Moby with a wallbang, and UCF will take their third round win as expected with very few losses, honestly, on the board.
Yeah, just only a singular loss there on the board is going to be big for them going forward, knowing that, I mean, not only that, I mean, you get a back couple of them, but you quite frankly couldn't really care less. Look at the standing on the board. You had somebody carry over that, quite frankly, when you look at it, you're saying, honestly, purchasing of another gun, even then looking at Rudy making that purchase for someone else, knowing they got enough kills in that last round, you're saying this kind of compensates for itself to a certain degree. It really doesn't matter all that much in the big scheme of things. Having that from the shadows to work with now, you're not really freaking out too much about the ultimate economy, but looking at what everybody else has to work with, a very, very quick B hit coming through here. They know that usually the Jet like to be sectioned up to that side of the map earlier, but you're looking to really put that investigative work here currently. Figure out where the setups are, figure out who's in Boathouse, you get that read on Sova, you know that, okay, this is their default, they're probably going to do this 4 times or not. Just make sure to choke these guys out and spray down what you can.
Very different defensive approach from Converse, which is the right idea, all things considered. UCF have also transitioned to a more aggressive front towards B. Headshot was connected there in the back of Boathouse, but gotta keep holding the trigger, otherwise you can't get the kill.
Oh my God.
Who had assisted on the refrag after the death in the back of Boathouse, comes down the stairwell and takes down 2. 1 through the Central 89 crates, and it is a 3-1 victory right now for Converse Nightblood. J. Cruel is playing out of their mind right now in Dallas, and UCF Gold, They'll have enough to buy up here to a somewhat good degree. Yeah, Rudy's a little bit behind, but you've got to fear where J. Cruel is, and you've got to be ready for Moby as well, who has shown that they can fight with the best of the team.
I just gotta say, in that last round, I'm just a little bit still left in awe of what was happening there from UCF. It seemed like they had the control of the site. They were ready to go ahead and push it out, but it just seems like they were stalling for so much, just kind of completely distracted by that Sova in the back of Boathouse, that they just didn't want to push the guy up. But you're in a 5v1 scenario. If you're not going to take those fights where you have numbers, quite frankly, what are you going to take unless you have gun advantage, which is being the one round they've won thus far? So there's a lot of kind of discussions that are going to be up in the air right now for these early stages and these early rounds, and we still have plenty of time left to really discuss and address those. But as it stands right now, I mean, Converse, when it came around to this first 2 rounds, having that confidence in terms of rounds and having that lead to work with and having a little bit of insurance down to play off the back of, it leaves a lot to be left for here, a lot of strive for UCF, knowing that Operator still is staying inside the game, that not very many players are dropping guns because you got these highlights, just not only getting first blood out of JSP now for the second time in a row, but even then J. Cruel, who's go ahead and get those guns, get those strands, now having a 5K and like a 4K, and off the back of that, you're saying, Converse, we got to find a way to work around these guys. And if B isn't working out, quite frankly, I wouldn't really blame you to go to A, but you know that they're going to be split up purely because of how long you took on that last one. But still, A, maybe a better shot if you know that the operator's present here in the back of B.
They still want B. No attempt to transition just yet. They've left one player towards the right side of door and Boathouse. They'll clear away the utility, and yes, there is a null command being popped for the side of UCF Gold, and you know where that KO was. You know it's a push now into the B site, and JSP has their work cut out for them. Downs the null commanded player of Squirmore. Scotty goes down just the same. Last of the
Oh my!
And what a hit from JSP. They take it down. The J started their name, Doppelganger of Jason. Beautiful flick to the head, and UCF Gold are once again dismantled on a push up through B, where it looks like they have a chance to take control of it, Dallas, but they can't get it done, and they stall right as they're about to dash into sight.
Another one of those moments, and quite frankly, I can't blame him for taking a timeout this early in the game. I mean, sure, it feels a little bit 2 rounds off, maybe from the margin that I would typically expect a team to be taking a time like this, but I mean, honestly, it's deserved, it's needed, it's a necessity at this time. Seeing the kind of rounds that have gone away thus far, the only round you won, you're saying we had gun advantage, and even then it was by a good margin of making sure those pistols really went ahead and beat down those Converse players in that secondary round. But now, to the point like this, where once again, the result of that last round, I want to say, was because of the stalling. It wasn't even by the effort of Converse, keep in mind. It was just by UCF kind of refusing to press that W key a little bit, that they feel like they're meeting their makers and they're looking up towards Converse rather than right at them. This is the same stage in the bracket. You can't go ahead and give them all of this luxury of being the better team here right off the get-go, because that's going to lead to them just playing better and better and better when they know they got you exactly where they want you. And I mean, look at the last round specifically. They had you cornered, cut off, and didn't even let you get a spike down. This is money that's not only being lost by UCF, but it's resulting in more rounds being lost in the long scheme of things, where this attacking side won't look like it even has a shot if they don't pick at least up that objective responsibility.
With the timeout now over and done with, Dallas had a lot of words for how UCF can start to maybe capitulate a further point, but it's good to mention this is an eco round. They have nothing really to the board. They're going to be bringing sheriffs and hoping that somebody's head gets slightly spotted around some corner or something, and maybe can kind of veer away from where JSP is with the sniper, who has been a kind of a one-trick pony so far with the giant boomstick. Whether it's the operator or the marshal, they've been the forerunner of success on the sniping in for Converse, which is none too shocking, but JSP will eventually be forced to drop that. I can only anticipate as UCF will start to do better, but this round is not working out their way as expected for an eco, and they'll lose that first blood on the push. And Excites has some noise and some kills they can gain over towards B. They'll get some assistance from the Omen with that paranoia.
Another one of those scenarios, man. You're looking at the allocation of players, your KJ going in before your Jet, then your Jet can't trade off. You're saying, dude, this is your job. You got to get these kills, and you're not even pitching in the fights. It's just, it's a lot of hurt that's going around. It's being passed quite easily, quite fluently amongst all the players here. But I mean, once again, as you mentioned earlier, it's an eco round. You can't freak out too much with that. Just puts a lot more pressure on these guys to make sure to kind of, you know, take these fights a little more aggressively. This is the rounds where I talk about it, where these players are like cornered animals. So they say, we got nothing to lose, we got nothing but sheriffs, let's just find a kill and capitalize. But quite frankly, they're not really finding too many kills. They found 2 so far, but they haven't really capitalized. They haven't picked those guns up. They haven't made themselves bigger threats in the big scheme of things. And so long as they can at least get a spike down, you can say there's some extra money, and we can at least get something done maybe in this next round.
Plant does go down for UCF Gold, getting an even 3-on-3, and an eco round is very large for your side. If you're able to collect the weapons you've gotten kills with as well, it's even better. One of them likely too far on the B side. The other one here towards Garden could have been a good option for them to drop in, though, from Rafters. Too much to overcome. One with a rifle from Excite. JSP brings out the knife, and it is just B-Niper all by their lonesome, and it's a sniper to take them down, with JSP getting a 3K. A very successful player for Converse. Maybe didn't like that J. Curl and Moby were getting all of the lap of luxury. They've stepped up to the plate, and they've now tied J. Curl's margin, even after they got an ace in the very first round.
I mean, it's what you're expecting another Jet, though, quite frankly, here on the map of Ascent. There's not too much they can really do. Sure, they can push a little more aggressively, but once again, when you're holding the line of scrimmage so well here on this map, the Ascent, you're looking at that pressure, and once again, it's the map that everybody knows. It just feels... really comes down more just kind of the confidence factor. Do you want to take these fights, or do you not want to take these fights? UCF just doesn't want to take them. They're lurking around the map. They're looking for free opportunities, maybe a little bit of lurking kills to kind of just be presented to them on a silver platter. But that's not going to happen. Converse are well aware of, okay, UCF don't want to push up. They want to play this pretty darn slow. And, well, what's better to hit a slow target than an operator when it only takes one bullet? So, seeing the way this thing is playing out so far, UCF, they do want to go for a push on towards this B side. You can see it being pretty aggressive in a certain regard, but even more so, it comes down to how is the follow-up going to look. And with the Hunter's Fury there and Niper able to go ahead and get that first shot off the board, you have nothing but a player in the back of the map that Odin to go ahead and completely cut you off with a gorgeous execution, leaving only one player behind, which is going to be Jason. But he's obviously going to kind of take that somewhere else. Doesn't want to give that operator. This should be a free round here from Converse unless they want to go head hunting. But when you barely have scratched these rounds together in the first place, I don't think that's a risk you really want to take.
Pull back. Have some patience. Have some humility in defeat for the side of Converse. JSP wants to make sure this operator stays in their hands, and UCF don't look privy to the rundown just yet. I think they realize this is a save coming out from the side of Converse. They know that JSP has that sniper, and they're going to get the early information with Rudy peeking out towards B main, and the rest of the team just gets out of there, Dallas. They want nothing to do with it. They'll move all the way in far up towards defender spawn instead. It'll be UCF Gold's first round win after their third round win they took as expected. The drought seemingly has ended, and they've done a very good job to do so. What a spectacular round this one was. The setup there to get information, give them information in towards B main to try to distract Excite to hold there for the time being. But once you hear the players inside market, they rotate back. But
a singular round won by UCF using the middle of the map. Converse are saying, how did that happen? We've had so many rounds of success, it felt like they were essentially free. But now, when you see one more round and you've got that luxury of having this round lead now, you can take this time off. You can chill out a little bit. You can allocate your jet towards the middle now, knowing that you have kind of a double down and you have players just all over the spot. But even then, making the switch of the A for the KJ, I think the double down of having that KO and that jet towards the B site right there towards mid and B, they could have what feels like an absolute unit. Because keep in mind, these two players alone have accounted for what feels like nearly double the kills of UCF in their entirety before that last round.
JSP will hold on to B main for the time being. Has to flick up for a very interesting flick up to the Owl Zone, but it taps them, and B-Niper swings out very quickly to take down JSP. Excite had a chance for something good, but unfortunately it will go the other way, much like the other three kills that have gone in the way of UCF up to this point. A 2v5, nearly impossible to come back from, and I think they're aware of that, Dallas. We're about to have another yap session for another 50 seconds as they hide on the other side of the map. And Converse Nightblood are very aware this one was a loss from the start when they lost Excited the push out from the back of A from defender spawn. What can UCF Gold do? We asked the question 4 rounds prior. They've shown it. Much more commitment, much more speed, and diversifying the approach to the B site to dominate there. But they have yet to find the same success on A, and eventually they'll be forced to transition to that side instead.
I mean, there's a lot to really go ahead and unpack here, considering we got a YAP session, as you mentioned, right ahead of us. I mean, knowing that already you got the likes of that map being pushed up, they went from a main execution this time, which is, I mean, obviously good on them. It's something they haven't really done just yet, but still making sure to get that switch up and show that, okay, we can execute from main. We can have not only the majority of the players, but every single player go up. It just comes down to making sure that Owl Drone is what matches up against that operator, because quite frankly, if JSP isn't scanned there, I don't believe he dies. Even if he is wide open behind a smoke and doesn't really use the tailwind to get back behind cover and to get back out in the middle of the open. But still, there's a lot there to kind of look at for the perspective of what these guys are doing and how they're really kind of choosing to take their fights. Now you can see on the defensive side once more, I think, as I mentioned earlier, when you have a jet that has an operator and you don't have an alarm bar there to go ahead and take care of that information, you need at least a player to work with. And finally, we saw that player get knocked down, but now with that alarm bot actually being allocated towards the middle of the map, we see 2 players backing it up. It just, I'm not sure what Converse is doing, but I mean, they're in the lead so far. You can kind of chill out with it and say, we can at least give it a shot.
Here comes the Hunter's Fear from Excite, just trying to make some space and deny opportunities over towards B main, where there was an ever-present threat of danger in that side, over towards Lobby and Octopus. Converse, they're aware of that. They'll fall back to a little bit more defensive, like you've mentioned. They'll hold back. They'll play for time. They know they have the lead. They don't want to give up space and opportunities over to UCF Gold, and they're doing it on the opposite end this time. Instead of aggressing in towards Lobby on B, they're playing very heavy-handed in towards the A main side. Wildfire, with assistance from the Aldrome that came out from behind them, thought it was an open space towards A lobby and are looking to peruse their options that way with a one-way down to the ankle side. But the further back you are over there, the easier it is for the attacking side to get the kill first and foremost, and they'll rotate away, fearing that danger. Spike goes towards B main, 3 in through bottom mid, and Converse, get out, step away. Don't give up a kill. This has been your biggest problem in the last 3 rounds, is giving away UCF kills on this breakaway, not sitting back and playing for the retake afterwards. It's too dangerous to play that way, and you need to get these 3v kills where needed. Rudy stuck in a bad spot, had assistance from Boathouse, can't get the job done. Excite in through Market, has 2 players working in from defender spawn, and their omen not far behind them, but they'll pop the ultimates. This is a lockdown utilized for UCF Gold. They fear
I don't know if they go for this, honestly.
from Converse, and this is a beautiful stall, Dallas.
Yeah, it's just they've already seen that so much time was burnt just going ahead and trying to even find market control, for goodness sake. And even though they can't follow up off the back of that door, this entire execution has to be flawless and instantaneous at that. I mean, some good trades already coming off back and forth, but man, when UCF has the territory and the spike down with time working on their side, that's a 6th member on the field that's making sure that you win that round no matter what, because that stress is getting to Converse 10 times over. And even then, with the lack of a duels in a scenario like that, you don't have the aggression you wanted there. So, I mean, honestly, a beautiful hole from UCF. Not only going for kind of making sure that door wasn't closed, they were using that market area as another death trap. You saw the player allocate towards the middle of the map, right there on those panels, on those tiles, that arch, just kind of holding things down, looking for a cross, saying, look, they're going to worry about the guy in 10th, and I'm going to shoot him from the back, or they're going to go ahead and worry about the back. After hearing those shots, the 10th's going to shoot him. They're all over the place, and they're making sure to stretch out to a certain degree where they can make sure to take these fights on their terms. And they're not finding very many scenarios like that, but they found enough. Now sitting at 4 rounds here on the board, it looks like a much better stance. And even then, after that last round, they sure had to invest that lockdown with the null command, the Blazestorm available at a round like this, but still, 4 is more than enough for something like this.
I think it's beautiful putting Rudy there in that cubby, like you mentioned, towards panels, is just allowing them to shroud and step out afterwards if it was so required. They tried to, it failed, but it just was a really good play from UCF Gold, and they bring a little bit of that same style in this one as well. Big rush in, 1 player coming from lobby, did get rushed in by 2, but they'd come 4 heavy on the tree side. Flanked back round towards arches, took down 2, and found a 3rd in that tree door as they escaped out from garden. A really good attack from UCF Gold, greatly assisted by that null command. Just Converse trying to ego peek after the fact, and I think that's kind of the thing that has been plaguing Converse from this point onwards. They try to test the luck with guns up way too often, and it's led them very high and dry, and it's just led to another win from UCF Gold here, greatly assisted by B-Niper with the 4K, closed out very swiftly, and UCF Gold, after a very rough start with a 5-1 stat line, now tie up 5-5.
It's weird seeing that same exact problem. We talked about UCF for so many rounds prior, having that same problem plague this out of Converse on a round like that, especially when you have a lockdown. You saw that lockdown go down, so much space to work with. You have to assume immediately when you pop that thing down, players are so preoccupied with running away that they're not really going to worry about shooting. You either have to A, cut them off on their exits, or B, manipulate that time when there's a couple seconds left to at least go ahead and establish your grounds and not just run after it's over with. Because this is a level of play where players aren't going to sit around for absolutely nothing. They're not going to get caught with that detain. If they do, it's very much an exception. It's not really the standard. But we don't see them making adjustments to that. We don't see that aggression coming through in Converse for somebody who had so much early aggression and so well played retakes for the earlier rounds that now we're seeing after one slacking and then a follow-up not looking all that good, even with the utilization of an ultimate. This round is really deserved for it to be an eco, and it's good here for UCF to not only find themselves a stance to get here early off the board, but make sure to get themselves an exchange and push up very aggressively through this B main to say, once again, this could be the opportunity of a lifetime to at least guarantee 6 and maybe get a lead, especially with these guns to work with.
Sniper just says, hey, take all 5 blades out of the refresh I just got. Essentially mag dumps the chest of the KO. Does get refragged by Excite, who plays much more aggressive. This is what we're seeing from Converse, knowing they have a weaker weapon. That was the thing for Moby over towards B main. They realized they couldn't hide back and try to escape like JSP had done in round 4. They have to commit. They do so, get the 1 kill. The rest of the team doesn't have the same luxury of being pushed into by UCF. They have to push back, and it is just a game of red in the kill feed, just obliterating all competition as they rush towards them. UCF Gold will break even, guaranteed at halftime. 6-5 your score line. 1 more to go. And UCF have to put it forward. Can we take the full 6 in a row to put us up 7-5, or can Converse finally figure out what is going so wrong in the last 5 rounds?
Yeah, what a beautiful rebound here from UCF. I mean, they're finally going ahead, getting themselves on the map, figuring out what's going on here, and seeing how to really just address all the problems that have been in front of them for the majority of this game so far, or at least what plagued them from the first quarter of this entire map. Knowing that already trying to get themselves on site, that operator had a lot of good stalls. JSP, once you went ahead and shut it down, he didn't have too many rounds to really work with it. So, I mean, you found the right shots, and he was at the perfect timing when he was starting to buy for their teammates because he knows that he's not dying. But, I mean, looking at what's on the board now, you've used everything. You're kind of left with nothing but guns. So, sure, you're playing a little more of a raw form of Valorant at this point. But, I mean, hey, you got 6. You got a guaranteed even half at the end of the day, especially when you were in a deficit for so long. So we've seen them utilize everything almost at a perfect kind of pace to know that, okay, not only just for pacing in terms of the rounds, but also now getting onto these sites, they have figured every single last inch of it out at this point now, and they really just look a lot better.
JSP now all alone on the A side, quickly getting assistance in on the flank, 1 towards door, and you need to diversify the retake. They're doing a good job of that. It's not going to be enough. Turret placed on top of Jin. Excite, though, with the covering fire for B-Niper, managing to even things up for a 3-on-3. Moby, who had transitioned from Garden. Where are they going? You slow the retake. This isn't the lap luxury you have. You have to extend into the objective. You need to play for these kills. And with JSP down, you've lost a big point of success with that operator. It's a 1v1. Fleet comes out. Excite knows they can't do it fast enough. They've got to push to Screamore, and they jump for the kill. Didn't matter anyways, but it gets the 4K, feeds the ego, and UCF will in fact go 6 rounds in a row to close out that first half. Like you said, the best comeback possible, figuring out exactly what Converse were doing.
I don't know what's happening there for Jason, but I know a lot of upper tier players like to map their jump to their scroll wheel. So maybe he had a little bit of a devolving back to his old tried and true, saying maybe I'm gonna scroll to change guns. Oh, I already changed guns. Why am I doing this? Who knows? A little bit awkward to see sometimes, but it does happen every now and again. Maybe players are doing other games besides Valorant, and they haven't changed their button controls yet so far. But one thing that we are seeing is UCF has control of this game to a certain degree. Able to go ahead and finally flip things on its head, get themselves that lead that you said, but not only just by an even margin, but better yet, by an actual legitimate lead. Sure, if it was 6-6, seeing that rebound, seeing those rounds being put together perfectly across the board, that shows what they're capable of. But now here, once they feel like they figured everything out, this is where the swap becomes into play. That's where you see these players now once again having to kind of figure things out, start adjusting. And while their fragability in these first couple rounds, remember, looked good, not only in that first round, but knocking so many down in that second, they show their pistol prowess is there. But is it there reactionary? Is it there for a retake? Is it there for initial picks? And quite frankly, Jason, it takes a little bit, but it shows that, well, it can get done with the amount of utility being invested. Just problem is they're not expecting anything coming through to the back of their site until they hear the elephant stopping that's proceeds.
Yeah, it's going for the surprise factor, and Converse got enough of it, but it just feels like they bled a bit too much in the aftermath. They weren't watching towards Pixel Peak, which is where that box sack is right below rafters. We're just hiding just below that. Even why your jet is not watching towards that as the first person out of the gate on that rafter side just doesn't make too much sense. UCF Gold on the defense will dominate the first round very differently than how Converse dominated theirs with the ace that came out from J. Cruel. But UCF Gold go nearly flawless. 1 player lost in the pistol round, and that will give them plenty of credits to have a very substantial round 2 of the second half.
I mean, we don't really see too many actual like defensive sided pushes from the attackers on the likes of on Ascent. Better yet, sorry, I'm thinking about Sunset because that's where this point's going. That map, you do see it a lot, actually. And because of the middle of the map being so darn open, so easy, and it just feels like that map is built like a Smurf because you can just hop and skip maybe 2 times, and you're over in the defensive side or spawn. So already, when you're seeing that being presented here on Ascent, this map just does not work like that. You have to take these fights appropriately. You have to kind of go through your opposition rather than around. And once again, UCF has proven that on the defensive side. You can't really just be given anything for free. You have to give up a side in order for it to actually be taken for free. And in a point like that, you can't really wrap around too much. There's too much noise to be made. These sites are held down way too aggressively for anything to just be completely given up. And quite frankly, already here with the starts, giving up was almost a life there for a second, but still with just a nary shot there towards the body, you get more information than anything else.
I like the idea from UCF Gold. They played very swiftly in towards B lobby. That's where they got first blood in this round, which does put them on a back burner for Converse, lacking the KJ, lacking Moby, who has been a pretty good shot so far in this series. Does kind of stink, and you were really hoping that that shot to score more would be a kill to try to even things up, and you could rotate back to B site kind of well. But you know there's still 2 players defending there, and you know that you can get a push onto the A site with Wildfire. Classic headshot kill. Excite headshot with the Sheriff. That's A site. The 2 average defending players actually on the objective going down. Now means it's just the retake that will need to be watched coming out from the side of UCF Gold. Owl drone up and around the corner being shot through the wall. B-Niper needs to rotate away. How are they still up and standing? It's hard to say, but this is a man advantage for an eco round Converse, who have now collected some of the weapons that UCF were bringing to the table, and this looks like a win for the attacking side to split the first 2 rounds neck and neck and really throw the expectations of Valorant in the last 3 years out the window again, as that has been the case for the last month.
I mean, just seeing what the guns are available, what guns are possibly being lost there. You can see the Scotty looking to hold things down as best you can, but still, a Marshall being the one thing to create an entire downfall for a team is just insanity to me. Knowing that not only was it just these Stingers and these Spectres and better yet Bulldogs giving up, but it was an entire Phantom there as well being given over to the side of Converse that you're saying, thanks for a 3rd round. We didn't even think about the second one, but hey, we'll take it as well. I mean, it'll be complimentary. So, I mean, knowing that already you're looking here at 6, you're looking at almost a near purchase for a couple of these players to kind of see what they're starting to accumulate here. And UCF is on the back end of this. They have the luxury of having those 2 rounds of actual gap to work off of. I mean, they've worked for that on the attacking side, and good God, have they earned it. But already now being here on the opposing side of the map, looking to have to hold these angles down. They looked good for a pistol, but afterwards, it feels like Converse kind of played this a little bit more awkwardly. So, I mean, they have some good fights they can take. Round 1 just didn't look hot with it, but now they actually have guns, and when they kind of get these better riflings in hand to work with, I think honestly it's going to be one of the more confusing attacking sides that you just cannot answer to quite frankly.
You gotta be very careful on the push, and more so defensively if you're trying to get aggressive, which UCF had done very well in the last round at the very beginning with the kill towards B lobby. And I guess try to do the same thing here with the link play in from Puppy, try to take down an individual for Converse, and as expected, knowing what you have, the double swing doesn't do the job well enough, and you're now left to wonder, can we retake the B site with limited weapons and a man disadvantage? Time will tell, but time doesn't heal all wounds, and you've got a very low HP Jet. Your KJ is trapped in the back of the boathouse, being swiftly ran upon by 3, and you even lose one more after the fact. Domination from Converse after the shocking last round. They'll throw up yet another. Flawless indeed, and the scoreline now just 1 despairing between the 2 sides.
And quite frankly, I mean, it's just not the rounds that they're kind of winning so far, but I mean, look at that economy. They don't just have that 1 round, as you mentioned, of a deficit. They have about 2 to 3 rounds of actual purchases. So quite frankly, if they just win one of these 3 rounds, they're kind of set for another eco here to throw UCF off. So I think we're going to inevitably look at a tie game here one way or another. I don't think UCF really hold this thing down and kind of go ahead and chug along, because I mean, it's not, we haven't even seen round 9 yet, better 10. I mean, and that's that double-digit kind of checkpoint chokehold we talk about so much, where teams start to kind of think they're hitting that final draw, that final line. And quite frankly, in a game like this, where you see it so back and forth, and even better yet, the entirety of a lead is being thrown on its head at every single whim, whether or not it just kind of be the side swaps or even then more so the approaches to these rounds and the economy available. But knowing what's going underway here, Converse, they're the ones that are kind of, I would say, taking control of this match so far. UCF, we saw it on the attacking side. They take a little bit to get adjusted, but Converse's attacking side has seemed so kind of awkward, not only in regards to what we saw to UCF where it was different, sure, but Converse is just something different. And I think they're going to show that here for the next couple of rounds as they get themselves a possible lead.
Shots have to connect. Converse do so for the first blood. JSP alongside some assistance, able to take down the first individual for the side of UCF Gold. The Odins just haven't been super strong today, I would argue.
No.
From either side. Converse had the difficulties on B. We're now seeing it being attempted in towards Garden, towards Tree on the A side from the side of UCF. That falls apart, but
oh my god! Oh my god!
Scotty inside a cubby doesn't get spotted the slightest turn away, and it's 3 kills. What an engagement coming out from your KJ. Yes, refragged, but it's a 1v3. They have to stabilize the KO. They can't in time and be Niper. What a play. J. Cool had killed themselves, by the way, on that no command with the fragment.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense because I don't know what his health total was looking at. Wasn't paying that close much of attention. But if you are low enough, you just kill yourself, get the free res off, and you get a full back to 100. So, I mean, there is scenarios where that kind of makes sense. But good God, in a 2vx where you already lost 3 players because of the KJ and not checking your corners, that's your detriment there. Quite frankly, I mean, you look at the switch around. I said that UCF had to really step it up, went around like that. I mean, not really definitively because obviously they still have purchases to work with. But knowing that, I mean, they gave up so much for absolutely nothing. There's no real trade there. You find a KJ who gets 3 just from not checking a corner. Not only does it hurt your man advantage because obviously that is now gone, but your mental's also scratched a little bit because you're like, oh my God, we forgot the fundamentals.
Step-by-step process, and sometimes the first step out the door of checking in corners kind of goes a little bit out the window. Very unlucky, but also it's kind of spelling your own demise. You make a single misstep and you go tumbling down the stairs. You just have to hope that it's not a very long staircase. Hope it's not an Eiffel Tower and it's more like just a step or two down into a lower floor in the basement. But it's about as low as you can get for Converse. You started to get things back on the board, and UCF Gold somehow, some way pull that around, and now having 2-round advantage back underway, and defensively haven't given you a single peek in this round for this push. Converse are left to wonder where to head to. 1 player towards B lobby, the rest lagging behind towards Courtyard, maybe with an emphasis in towards Tree. But I just don't think they have enough to really sing that they want to engage here until they get the recon bolt into B, and they say, maybe we don't have to deal with the Sova. Let's engage onto the A site.
Even then, still a lot of lurking players here around the map, and even then already going ahead and giving you an idea that Rudy's there towards Y and still has presence of behind you, so you're not really here on site. You're not looking comfortable and saying, look, we've established ourselves here for a post-plant. You haven't established anything until finally Moby's here to help out and say, look, now we actually have a line. We have a separation between the people that are defending and the people that are attacking, and it's not surrounding us and making sure that we're inevitably done for. But still, with 3 players alive, 2 towards heaven, 1 towards that door, J. Cruel, quite frankly, is surrounded. Who cares of the assistance that you have? You got to win your own gunfights, and if that's not the case, you're seeing a 10th being forfeited here for UCF as they find themselves not only security off the back of that to get it, but I talked about it earlier. UCF, I thought Converse had this game in the bag. They just had to do every little thing right. They just had to go ahead and stick to the fundamentals, and well, that staircase you mentioned, it's looking to kind of get bigger and bigger.
Even if you have to put players through Tree and lap around in through defender spawn like we saw UCF do that one round, I think round 4 of that first half, do it. You're already playing slow. What's an extra 10 seconds on top if that 10 seconds will win you the round at the end of the day?
And when these rounds take place, I mean, obviously there has to be some kind of adjustment made when you sense that a player is going through Tree. You have players being allocated, pushing out there towards A main once more to kind of look for control. And once again, as I mentioned earlier, surround these guys. And already with UCF employing that so much, it seems like on their attack side, they were obviously ready to make the adjustments when it comes around. They know how to react to their own kind of game style. So already they're taking control of the earlier areas. They're looking to kind of bring that line more into their control and get themselves more space to work with. And Converse, with how sporadic and kind of spread they were to kind of look around the map and where they're looking for that control, it works out for them because they're saying the further we push up, the more aggressive we get. And with how spread out they are, if we see even them lose a singular player, it feels like they kind of dismantle a little bit. So it really just comes down to finding these early picks, which now having an operator on the field, they're not pushing up nearly as much anymore. They're just hoping that somebody overextends and they can find those free bloods.
Slow as you can get for this round. I mentioned it. You gotta buy it for time. You gotta find an individual pick where you can. The danger comes here towards bottom mid. And the KJ for the side of Converse can Moby scrape away a kill for the rotate. They haven't peaked just yet. And UCF are getting a freebie on site. Yes, the door does get switched and pulled, but it doesn't make things any easier. It's forced into the Excite for the back line, assisting Wildfire onto B-Niper, getting one of their own. UCF Gold may just be in a very difficult scenario. It's a 2v3. Your KJ has to rotate nearly the whole map, Dallas, to get into a space to play. And they'll have to walk alongside the Owl drone, very reminiscent of a Rainbow Six Siege play, drone out in front of your leading player. They're both down in hell, one towards Arches. Excite's already scraped two. Jason there for it though. The recon bolt keeps
Oh my God!
Huge! Jason with the most glorious recon bolt you can imagine, and the most engaging retake I've ever witnessed on Ascent. Perfection incarnate for UCF Gold.
I mean, just see the timing on everything just go ahead and perfectly accumulate there for that round where you see the defuse, bait that thing out, or not even bait it, pressure it, because you're sticking that Joker for both of them to have to answer at the same time. You knocked out a player towards Arches. You're saying if there was a trade there to be made, it would have been taken. At least the fight would have engaged and elongated, and that just wasn't the process there. UCF knew what they were dealing with. They knew the players that were down to the bottom. When you get those scans off and having Odin in hand, you're saying it is absolute wrap. So huge stance for them. We talked about the checkpoint chokehold. That was as much of a checkpoint as we could have ever seen.
You have to ask for a big round, and it's been given. Just Fury goes out, trying to get a kill back the other way. It is JSP instead to close and secure. J. Cruel on the B site in default gets the plant. And despite there being a lockdown that was employed from UCF, it did not keep Converse away from that site. And now they're put in a man disadvantage. Rushed around. Excite needs to be there for the team. Effectively a 3v3 if you're not careful. How does that miss for V-Niper? They'll pop the Blade Storm up over the top of the wall. Rudy for one and just one. Can't hit the blades. V-Niper. And it's the same thing for Squirmer. 8 rounds now to Converse Nightblood. A much better round. The speed, totally different from the patience they've been playing the last 3.
We could see a little bit of a comeback. I mean, keep in mind, after those 3 rounds won that we did see in that first half, that's when UCF was able to kind of go ahead and finally rebound. So sure, it could be the same exact turn of events here for Converse Nightblood, but good night. It's going to be a while for them to have to get to that stage. I mean, seeing what they've done so far, they've had good looks, but knowing that even on the attacking side, their post plants, they haven't really had too many players available to them. And finally, with a man advantage to kind of get that done and look for the circumvention of problems and create that space and have some breathing room to at least set things up, you can see that, well, a hero player may actually get comfortable enough to kind of make sure to get these strands of kills with who else other than J. Cruel for a round like that. But still, there's a lot of game left, and you can't ask this guy to do it every single round. Sure, he can start off hot, but keep in mind there's only so much gas in the tank, and quite frankly, he can wake up every here and there, but you're going to need everybody else to kind of do that a little bit more consistently if you're going to have a chance to even catch up in this match.
Converse will play heavy towards the B side. They found success the last round. Why not attempt it once again? It's going to be very difficult to do so. Did Excite see the player over there towards panels like you had said prior? I don't know, but Sniper surely thinks that they have. They sent a recon bolt just to make sure that was in fact a player. But coming up silence may be a little bit more dangerous than expected. Jason out of the cold and into the woodwork. Down they go. Scotty DBNOing the player in the no command, and Rudy from the corner. What a rush out. A heavy-handed defense to the B side. It's a gamble, but it's a 50-50 shot. And you'll take those odds of UCF Gold, and you'll take match point now, the scoreline being 12-8.
I mean, understandably, you'll take those odds at UCF Gold, but I mean, you're not the one engaging. You're not the one putting the cards on the table. You're not the one taking those bets. It's Converse Nightblood who's in a deficit looking for those returns. But they're nothing but diminishing at the end of the day, and that's the big problem when you're already in such a large deficit here. 3 rounds, I mean, sure, earlier in the game, that could be something you really kind of go ahead and gamble, but you're at the point now where you are just risking any kind of regular round. You were looking at, the 10, 11, 12, but 11 and 12 being a lot more important because either you're reaching match point or, well, you're seeing the end of the entire map start to accumulate in front of you. So knowing that even then, UCF didn't have to invest much in a round like that, and as an answer in a round like this, the final one, possibly, you're already dealing with a no command for a retake. You just got to stay alive. And Squirmer's not only done that, but found a kill as well in the meantime. added on top of the damage done to Wildfire earlier on, UCF know where these guys are. They know the damage they've done. They know they don't really have rifling behind them, and this could just be the end of it.
Spike down mid.
Jason,
Standing ahead.
we're seeing finally the Odin come forward, Dallas, with big emphasis. They show what they could do a couple rounds after we mentioned that the Odin wasn't doing much. They step up to the plate. They will go down to the hands of Excite, their doppelganger, but it is a 4v2 still in effect. You'll need the same near miracle that came out from UCF in that retake a couple rounds prior, and I just can't envision that will be the case as Converse fall back towards top mid. And A site could be the idea, as that's where your Omen is holding, but I think they'll play a recon bolt far to the B main side for a bounce. Does that rotate over to B? It does, and it's cleared, and that may just force a player over, but it's a 2-on-2. There's no need to rotate if you UCF, if you know you'll have an even advantage, no matter what, if you just double stack a site, and you do so on A and it works. Scoring with the final blood, Rudy the one prior, 13-8 the final score line, and UCF punch their way again of the second half. No matter what, you cannot give momentum to UCF because they know how to use it, and they are so darn good with it in their back pocket.
Well, I will say the difference also between Ascent and a map like this is we actually get to see some differentiation when it comes to the agent selection. We're not seeing mirror comps. We're not, it's the same thing. We are noticing at least a little bit of comfortability and some opting for different avenues. Sure, everything else looks relatively the same, but there is one exception being those controllers, obviously between Wildfire and Rudy. And I think, quite frankly, in a map like Lotus, where it's so vertical, it's so horizontal, better yet. I mean, on both ends, it's very large, but even then, more so, it's wider than other maps because of the 3 sites. Astra, I want to say, has a little bit more potency in scenarios like this, where you say, oh, well, she only has 4 stars. Well, how many times are you seeing an Omen throw more than 4 smokes in a singular round? Let's be real. So it feels like the Astra always just kind of has a lot more usability, a lot more versatility in these kinds of maps, considering that you can kind of burst those things down. And if you don't need those smokes, they can kind of be used for other stuff, especially when you look at the potency of backing it up with a Viper. And we've seen what that woman can do, and especially with these choke points. When you see that C is what I'm going to be looking at more times than not, especially on that defense, that thing's going to be a surefire counter just over and over again, where it just feels like I don't think Converse is going to want to push it.
There's also a big difference typically when you're talking about that controller between Astra and Omen. If you're an Astra, it's a lot harder to be reactive and play behind the team lead, the IGL guiding things through. You want to be the first person to put those out to, force the team to do something else. Essentially act as an initiator with that utility to set things up. Omen, you play reactive. You play when needed, and it's very simple and by account. Astra has so much a part of her kit and can do so much simultaneously. You have to be willing to lead a little bit, and if UCF have that potential alongside their control of their Astra, this is going to be a very good series against Converse, and it's already rocking off strong. Uni had a great game previously. Starts off strong here as well, but Excite claps back with a 3K of their own. Now down to the 2v1. Plant will go down and default on a site. Not on wall, but close to box. And J. Cruel will have a very dangerous game to retake, and it's denied by the Sheriff headhunting down J. Cruel. A 1-0 start for UCF Gold, but a very dicey one with a very good shot by Excite to get 3.
Yeah, 1 classic versus 2 Sheriffs. I mean, when you see that both those guns have been scavenged up, best case scenario, usually you're saying, okay, I'm only dealing with 1. Worst case, why does every single player I'm going against have a Sheriff? And when you have nothing to classic, there's not much you can do besides get close, right click, and just pray to the classic gods that they find that little piece of shrapnel go right to their head. But as I was saying, so far, UCF, they found way too many early bloods there. And it, obviously just looked definitive for them. You saw the plays there towards the A side. You saw them just kind of take it over for free, what it felt like for the most part. And even then opening things up towards that B area of the map. We saw that first blood going their way, but they snapped back almost instantaneously, which is well deserved on their half. So knowing that they can already go ahead, use a round like this to kind of take advantage of the fact of saying C site will be this site over and over again, that will be a highlight. It will be very difficult to go ahead and take control of, that they kind of want to hit it early. And I don't blame them. Go ahead and get it out of the way. At least maybe find 1 round off the back of C, so you can say we don't give up too much of how we like to play this B and A site. But I mean, Converse is just as aware of that. I think everybody knows how difficult C is to take. You do want to go ahead and at least kind of redeem that voucher at some point. But with how many guys are over there, I'm thinking they're saying, look, this isn't as free. It's just a discount. It's going to be easier, but it's not sure.
Get a little bit off the top, but you can't have the whole thing, a whole cake alongside it, or pumpkin pie, since we're being thematic to the holidays we've just had. By the way, UCF Gold start off this first second round quite well. Blowing apart 2, getting good damage onto a third of the raise, barely able to escape for Converse. Jason knocks J. Cruel down a peg again, and it's essentially 1.1 v5, and it's over very swiftly for UCF's favor. A flawless round at that. The Guardian from B-Niper. What a play from UCF Gold. You expect to win, but it's always nice to see it go so dominantly and controllably in their favor.
I mean, already, just you see it, UCF, they said, it could be free, it could be difficult, but they made sure to just kind of go ahead and make sure to take it where necessary. And that was just more by Converse, not holding those angles, I'd say a little bit more, I'd say passively, because keep in mind, you're working with Sheriffs, you're working with these kind of classics, these Ghosts, these Pistols, just trying to make sure to kind of squeak something out. And you're swinging into a Guardian on Mountain. So it's a little awkward, a little not optimal, but hey, it's taken regardless. And honestly, it's a good call to kind of go for that again, quite frankly. You know that obviously B-Nipers feel themselves with that Guardian in hand, and if there's anybody that you're going to be taking guns from, it's going to be right there Mound once more. Maybe seeing that these players get a little bit more aggressive, give up that space, and better yet, show their head so they can get another gun over to your attacking side. UCF were hoping for these opportunities to kind of come towards them, but knowing that they found those early fights here towards the C side of the map, they go for a very quick rotation because they know that if A's going to be free, it's going to be free as fast as possible. You can't take this slow, otherwise you're really done for.
Falling back, let UCF get the plant and retake quickly. 3 players stacked up towards the drop of heaven. Another will rotate in towards the back elbow, and one more player will try to step up from door side to get a little bit of extra assistance. Wildfire will have to wait for the snake bite to dissipate. 2 will drop down below. No, just 1. 3 will drop from heaven rope side, and they have to engage. Rudy with a 1-for-1 trade. Stormor goes uncontested back. Scotty, though, goes shockingly unseen. And despite the showstoppers usage here, Converse, who go kind of getting unscraped by it, gets scraped by every other thing on the arsenal for UCF Gold.
So big.
What a huge round, like you're saying, to just put a pin in all of the attempt for Converse on that defensive position. The retake, fruitless. The attempt, null and moot, and it's a 3-0 start for UCF Gold.
That is a slap in the face of Converse, and there's no real other way to put it, quite frankly. You look at the rounds like that, you're saying we go for an aggressive push on C, maybe want to go ahead and take those fights. Not that they're second-guessing it now. I think they're going to take those C fights a little more aggressively at this point to say, look, we got to rob these guys early on, because already when you see slip-ups, you see these players going ahead giving up the A site, they said, okay, we're confident in these retakes. We're going to give up the A site, play for the retake, and they ate their words so darn fast. Yeah. You get to the point where you're losing players. You can't even go ahead and swing out from stairs. Better yet, drop down from heaven. You're not seeing splits. You're sitting there saying, we need to trade here, and nothing's going your way. For UCF to make sure to not only give themselves a round win, but have 3 players, the majority of their team, carry over guns as well, and give B-Niper that Guardian strand of kills on the last one where he didn't have a showstopper to work with. You're saying nothing well went in our direction that round. We had really nothing work out for it. Sure, we got 2 kills, but who cares? That's 3 kills we were missing. That's an entire round that we don't have on the board. And better yet, not a round we got, period, in this entire map so far. And we're 3 rounds in on our own selection. So we'll see how things go. Constant Divine to work with here for UCF. They can split off things that they really want to take control of essentially for free and kind of cut off this gunfire. But in the eco round where, well, quite frankly, Converse isn't working with much, you don't feel pressure to really invest any of it.
Yeah, all the yapping about how demoralizing that is for Converse. That's where UCF gets caster cursed to Dallas, and they come out, and all of a sudden Converse get some insane sheriff kills to somehow pull off round 4 and pull on a huge upset. That's the caster curse
to the caster curse.
Converse were praying for it. And UCF, they avoid the biggest danger right at the very beginning, the step up to a site. They play very smart. They sit back as far as they can, and they hold strong. And now they engage in towards the side. J. Cruel, the sheriff shot Scotty's head by B-Niper. 4 kills in the round. J. Cruel will collect a Vandal and go hunting, but everyone has vacated the premises, and J. Cruel will die to that spike as expected. No one to keep the rifle, which it's not a worse decision. You want extra credits for util as well. But UCF Gold will get a 4-0 start, and they avoid that concern in the back of their mind, edging closer and closer, saying, hey, they can still pull off round 4 and make our huge upset in round 3 a non-factor.
Yeah, this makes sense. Going ahead. Spend the last round when you're on an eco, figuring things out. Try to put some stuff together, kind of sort out what you want to do for the next round, because you know you're not really going to surmount too much on a round like that. But even then more so, if you feel like you need more time, that's where you got for the timeout. So obviously, I want to say this kind of has to be a tribute for how difficult this is looking for Converse so far. Knowing that this is their map pick, they should be feeling things out a little more comfortably here, and quite frankly, that they should be just looking strong in general. But we haven't really seen any player wake up and gonna have these hero plays, which is also kind of insane to me. Knowing that we should have had something by now, right? We're in the course of 4 rounds, maybe the first round, second round, something where we've seen maybe a 3K come underway, but we're just seeing a lot of split picks go underway, and knowing that you're on the defense, you can't allow that to happen. I mean, you are required to find maybe at least 2. Get that first one, pick a guy off, and then get some damage on the second. We're not even seeing that accumulate. We're barely seeing damage off the initial holds here. So knowing that, well, if you're going to be comfortable across the map, if you're doing what you can, I think honestly, seeing the way they're going to be playing this next is always just going to be extremely questionable, knowing that already we're seeing the KJ. You're relying on these defensive sides. You're relying on these Vipers to create these stalls. Putting a KJ and a Viper together, 2 of your kind of strongest stallers being on one side of the map, you got to find a counteractive. You got to find an opposing force. And with the passivity over towards C, you're looking at aggression coming from A, and it just still doesn't amount to much.
That much aggression, 3 players stacked over towards A tree. You put them all the way into tree, right at the gates towards attacker spawn, and you still lose a fight elsewhere. You put all your eggs in one basket, and the eggs you've left out
You gotta get one here.
and succumb.
Got to.
It's going to become a very big issue. Jason, down goes Moby. It's only the 3 that were on A, and they'll need to swiftly step into the site. Do they even go for it? I think they must for at least 1 or 2 if we're opting for something in between. They'll put flankers up on the flank watch for UCF. For it up and above, don't need to worry about it. It's the defensive of Converse. JSP. I mean, do you even play heavy for this? You have the assistance. You know you can step up to side at the very least, but does the Omen have a dark cover? Is there a paranoia to blind? The guiding light goes out, but no one's at sight. No one's home. They come a knocking and there's nothing there. Down goes a sight. One more there for B-Niper, but it's slowly avoided. That's JSP. Down goes 2. Big chance, the showstopper. It's somehow alive. The boost pack to save time. They'll tap the diffuser. Is JSP sticking? They are, but B-Niper pounces. What an attempt, Dallas, by JSP. But it's still not enough to usurp the dominance of UCF Gold.
I mean, it was a good attempt, but I mean, it was expensive. I mean, keep in mind, in a round like that, you're going all out, quite frankly. And if you're going to go for the showstopper and make that investment, sure, JSP, I think you were in the right shoes, made the right call there. But quite frankly, even then more so, Converse didn't kind of go ahead and look or have all the resources necessary for something like that. I mean, sure, they gave it their best shot, and it was really darn close. But knowing that even then, C-Mount is just so strong. And that's why it's so hard to take the site, because it's so hard to retake it, quite frankly. That you got to have an ISO or a constant divide available there to block those bullets, or you are sure as dead 10 times out of 10. And, well, once you give it up, it feels like it's a sealed deal. That you left that purely down to your KJ, who an operator killed immediately. Quickest plant we've seen probably all day on this map. And when you see scenarios like that, you're saying that leaves even less time now to even go for the rotate, because of how fast they took it initially. We couldn't even react to it. We couldn't even slow it down or stall it, because, well, your KJ missed the op shot. Nano Swarm didn't even get a chance to go off, because you're expecting that kind of strand of kills to work out for you to create more time on the attacking side. But that's just not the case here. Already Sneaker's going it away. You're going ahead, hunting these players on site. They don't even really have guns, but you're just rubbing salt in the wound, saying, you know what, take a Seeker on top of it. Have 2 players to shoot, because we know you can barely shoot one with a gun.
What a good paranoia, just literally half a second too late. The side of Converse to try to save your sky on site. UCF Gold pretty happy with the results, but Scotty going down could give a rifle over. Moby is refragged back. Jake Crow with a stinger. Down goes B-Niper. And Rudy has to clap back to give themselves the man advantage back in return. Jason around the corner, hiding within the dark cover, knows they can't step to it. That's what the Whirlpool's full, Dallas. That's why you brought the Astra. And you're gonna wait for the smoke to go. Guiding light around the corner, and the double spring. Your KJ didn't get a single one of those kills, by the way, which is shocking enough. The only player that could see out of that smoke did get blinded, yes, but they were the person out in front, and they only assisted one of them. The rest were cleaned up through a blind fire through the dark cover.
KJ wasn't even really intended to get kills there. Your KJ was just a meat shield. Running in there, being a distraction so everybody else can spray out. Because even your KJ's blind in a scenario like that. You don't care what your KJ does. You're saying Silo's moving around. That's all that matters. Instead of 6-0 on the board, they're doing that. They're doing it over and over again, and it's to no help at all from B-Niper, who's sitting at 14-1, leading the charge on this attacking side, doing exactly what they're supposed to. Being a duelist, getting in these fights and just tasting blood and loving every last second of it.
It is such a difficult game right now for Converse to claw back into. Last round, obviously, the chances were slim, but they did get close. Multiple times, evening the player count against UCF.
You should run.
But it's always UCF, Rudy more specifically, who opened that up really well for them to somehow claw it back up, tie it again, and even get things back towards the end right in their favor. Attacking lockdown goes forward. It's a bait towards B. It's actually a C-sided rush. J. Cool in the back corner gets away with a freebie. Almost a second, closed and secured by Mobies instead from the Nanostorm. And it is just B-Niper losing every other teammate along the journey to the C-side. The plant will go down, but you're asking for a very difficult 2v1 scenario with both players coming from the same way. But it is doable.
This man's 15-1. 2 kills to him? Come on. He doesn't really care all that much. As a showstopper, went ahead and put it towards the middle of the site, saying, okay, I can go ahead and actually capitalize off the back of this, but still, with a clean shot from Wildfire, he just cleaned up shop pretty darn quickly. So finally, a round surmounted here from Converse Nightblood, and not by, I would say, by their extreme success. Sure, great on them to get one round, but more just by UCF Gold not to read the fact that, well, you've known KJ and Viper played on the C side of the map, and you're not going in there with a full 5. You're going in there with just 3. B-Niper's going to satchel through every piece of it, not really going to get affected by anything, but still, you had 2 players who are running out completely blind, vulnerable, and inside a Nanostorm and saying, yeah, we'll sacrifice ourselves. That's okay with 1 player, as we saw with that flash exchange on the round before, but with 2, and you don't even have the spike down, it's a little bit shaky.
Finally, a round falls in favor of Converse, Dallas. Is it enough to swing things back their way? Have they buried the eco by getting enough kills in the previous few rounds against UCF to even trouble them? Doubt it. Highly unlikely. And even with this idea of this round to do a very hefty rush in through tree, like they had attempted 4 rounds prior and had to fall back from the death on B sites, they're kept by a single piece of utility, the snake bite, that holds them back. And that's just really the name of the game for UCF, utility expenditure, and making sure they're making wise usage of it. Excite, though, first blood in this round. Sight has a chance. Jarn moved away by the alarm bot. Beautiful usage of utility. I just said utility is king for UCF, and that is the literal definition of dropping your pistol to fake a flash. Down goes 2 in a row. It's somehow Converse still in the lead. 2 players on site for UCF. Wildfire. What a shot, and J. Kroll ends it off strongly for the second round for Converse.
UCF had the idea. They knew how to go about that site. I mean, you see so many players just go ahead and seal the deal and just sign their lives away by saying, cool, we got site, we got spike down, back up, and just let B kind of unfold. That's not mound on C site. You got to push up, you got to find those kills. And I thought they had a little more back control, but with the trades going through, they didn't have enough utility really funneled there. And sure, while the alarm bot looked good to take over the inside of the smoke, you had Sky there, who could have actually thrown a flash up and take control of behind the smoke. And that was your Astra smoke. Your smoke that really just kind of kills you there. But it is what it is. It's another round coming out here for Converse. So good looks for them, but obviously UCF are going to be a little bit agitated considering that, I mean, this is now 2 rounds in a row. Converse has not had any success so far, and it could be the strand to kind of get them back in the game because keep in mind, this same exact thing happened to UCF in the map before, so they know what's possible.
J. Cruel holding towards the Cosmic Divide. The plant down, UCF just need to hold strong. They can't give up space. Cosmic Divide will dissipate. Down comes the rush. JSP the showstopper. No one's giving them any look. Finally, we'll just pre-pop it around the corner. Down goes their doppelganger, J. Cruel, trying to stick this. It is a bloodbath of red on the wrong side of the kill feed. Gorgeous display of defensive positioning, wherewithal, and good rushing for kills. That is a 3rd round now in a row for Converse. And UCF Gold are back into the question. They're not showing the ascent they showed previously of doing okay in the beginning, poor in the middle, ending strong. They're doing the exact opposite now. 6-0 to now 6-3.
Well, you tried out the B site, UCF, and how'd that work out for you? Well, you put Converse back in the game. That's really all it came down to. Game 2 rounds in a row. That first one you can kind of go ahead and chalk up to luck. Things that really worked out too well for you. It was a 1v2, and I mean, you can win those statistically, but compared to the stats that we're seeing on that B side so far, you may just want to stray away from that thing. I mean, it's just not going to happen for you. The first one, I understand. They said regular utility, maybe if we invest some more, it can be doable. And then you try it with an ultimate, and then you're saying, yeah, that just sucks. Let's not do it anymore. And I really can't blame them. 3 ultimates still on the field, or better yet, just 2 to work with. I mean, knowing that one can be used for a post plant, you think the C side is going to look pretty good for you, but honestly, the times you've taken over the C side has been from initial picks or from kind of getting a player over towards that A side of the map to go ahead and get that initial control and kind of stretch something out. But I think they're going to go for that kind of typical C shift over to A kind of play we saw earlier, because that was really clean when they executed it. And I think, honestly, they should just go for it more. Kind of completely pan this game out to foot races, because they seem to win 9 times out of 10, considering that their race is just that much better right now, and that's your fastest player.
I think UCF just need to really get that first blood that they're harping for. And I think Converse have realized that if they play further back, they just play a little bit smarter, it will come to them. They will come to them. They don't need to peek and extend so heavily. Rush comes in with the usage of the boost pack. V-Niper could have and should have, but unfortunately goes the wrong way, veers into the wrong direction, and gets taken down in the process. J. Cruel, a second to their name, just pounding the rock even further. They will fall to the hands of Squirmer, and the same thing can be said for your KJ round the bend. It's a slow shot for UCF. 10 seconds will be left by the time the spike goes down. And Converse, we're not privy to that very slow and patient push coming out from UCF. And to make matters worse, with a Viper's Pit down, how do you retake this, Dallas?
Well, you got a Raze, you got a Sky, you got an Omen. Omen's going to do nothing here, quite frankly. You can maybe get a paranoia there for an answer. JSP has to be the one to clear house, and has already done a pretty good job at least getting one on the board. But you got to look for that Viper. You got to find these executions. You got to get these kills. And Scotty shut down already 2 of them. So, I mean, Viper doing a great job of defending himself, but it's going to take a while. And with that clock still ticking and ticking away, you have no idea where Squirmer is. A tap goes off, and you immediately have that kill just kind of free to go, considering the time is already working in their favor. So, UCF guaranteed themselves 7 off the back of that. They guarantee a lead no matter what worst case scenario at a point like this in the game, but still with 3 rounds on the board, Converse, they have a chance. They are inside this match now. They're not locked out at 0. They're not locked out at 1 anymore. They still have a chance to kind of play the rest of this matchup, but UCF, honestly, I mean, if they want a time to do it, now would be it. They have full purchases. They have a Viper's Pit. This could be their best chance to not only get themselves into the game, but better yet, just kind of guarantee themselves 5, because they can get 2 off the back of this, looking at the detrimental economy that UCF are currently sitting at.
V-Niper around the bend. Highlighted that there was a big raise difference for a while. How dominant Converse have been with the duelist up front in the action.
There.
Now they need a little bit of the same level of pizzazz. JSP up into the front, very close towards Switch. Needs to have door pulled by the other end to make use of that space. And there's just nothing happening just yet. UCF playing farther back. They know they can control ground. They can always rotate to C site if needed, but that turret is going to be the call out for information that will force that KJ for the side of Converse. Moa back into the side. Hold a little bit stronger. UCF, they just don't know what to do with themselves. Our cover for it. Tasmanian Tiger around the end. They'll fall back. I think they like the idea of C a little bit more than they're liking A right now, but they're still committing the 3 players here, and they want this first blood, and they may just lose it, because look where the push was coming for just a moment. It almost looked like UCF were stepping into door. But they'll play a little bit smarter. I think they'll rotate into the flanking side of B, or rotate and lap around, because I can't imagine they still push A here.
This is really awkward, too. I mean, you have your Sky on the opposite side of the map. You have no flashes, no real engages here besides your Raze, and that's going to be a blind swing out of a dark cover. So already going it away, you find some good exchanges. You get the better end of the kill, so finally you go ahead and inevitably meet the rest of the players here to defend this site. You have an idea that Excite's there, and that's going to go ahead and stall the plant. You're not going to get much down, because still, already another player coming from the stairs. This round, you're just not getting anything down, quite frankly. I mean, they're just toying with you, Jason. You can't get it done. Your teammates, I'm not going to say they failed you, but they didn't create enough space for you to really get the job done. And that, my friends, is why taking control of that little door section there on the outer side of A is so darn important, because that's where you're planning. That entire half of the site is where your default's going down.
I mean, look at the way UCF played that one so slow. Is that a total loss? They try to prowl for ground, but no one else is making headway anywhere else. They feel like, I think too early, Dallas, they were believing that B site was an impossible engagement because of that Viper's Pit.
It is
just the idea that B is impossible means C is impossible. And I don't get that mindset necessarily, that C is impossible to rotate back towards. Your Sky of Squirmer was already heading that way. Why the lack of commitment? It's just mind-boggling to me. Maybe there's something I'm missing. I'm not the big brain here, Dallas. I'll leave that to you for the playstyle pushing forward. But UCF, they get a 1-for-1 trade off the beginning, and now Utility and Utility alone puts the kill feed up for a 2-man advantage for Converse Nightblood.
Oh my God, I'm just not even. I'm not gonna waste the breath, man. It's just like, it's these points in the game where you said, I mean, this don't just be chalked up for Converse. I mean, obviously, that just came down to fish in a barrel. You're running things down, and you're saying, okay, there it is. As I mentioned, 7-5. Converse just kind of had it handed to them after this last couple of rounds they fought for. But UCF, yes. B was an impossibility. Let's look at those 2 horrendous rounds they were on the B side. If you're on that team, if you're an IGL, you're saying, I do not want to, I want my stats to be good. I want my stats to be great, so we're not going to go there because both the rounds that we lost on that side were horrendous. They were by great margins. It seemed like we never really had a shot. Sure, we had a little bit of control that we needed, but I mean, we weren't stretched out nearly to the degree that we wanted. C-side, though, I mean, I can't blame them. They had great C takes, but problem is, it just seemed like those last 2 C takes they were going underway were not fully committed. You weren't taking control of that site. You were saying, oh, we got a guy who's like 15-1, so we can just let him do everything. And there's an expiration date on that, quite frankly. We saw it. I mean, when the guy lost the 1v2, slowed down immediately from that point, saying, I literally can't do it all. And that's a little bit of a reality check, saying, okay, now we got to take something a little bit different here in our approaches. So, well, now that you're on the defense, you're kind of forced to take a different approach because you can't push anymore. While you can, on a pistol round, you're looking to see what these defaults look like and kind of figure out how Converse want to play this going forward.
Time to hunt.
C-site. It's worked for Converse. It worked for UCF. I think it worked for Converse. What's the big difference? You've got Jason, who's been a ridiculous person to deal with the whole time. And I'd step up a little bit further. Down they go. Converse pushing in towards site. Success for UCF defensively, but the plant will go down. And the sheriff shot's just a little too high. Not enough to connect. And it'll force this in for a post plant. Converse, plenty of damage done, but you got to get those angles and
clothesline.
What in the world did you just do all by your lonesome? 4 kills in the round and a dismantling of UCF's entire attempt on the defensive retake. 6-7 your scoreline, and Converse are out for blood in the last 9.
I thought Excite was running a share for the way I was seeing those guys getting folded. Like, the way their body and the trajectory was going backwards, I seriously thought he had a share because of how they were just getting slammed. But still, a Ghost nonetheless. It does just so much work on those pistol rounds, especially when players are opting for armor. So good on them to go ahead and get around. Not only just get on that C site, go ahead and check out that box. Now they're saying, look, let's make an exchange. We held B extremely well. Let's go ahead and swap things up. This round is going to be, you know, this site's going to be difficult to take, but let's go ahead and take it while we got gun advantage, right? 2 Vandals on the board? Just kidding. May want to go ahead and wrap back towards C once more because, well, with those guns in hand, with those Vandal advantages, you have mound control. You have the rifling to go ahead and just completely beam down that spike so long as it gets planted. And with only 1 player sitting there, quite frankly, Converse isn't aware, but that site's as free as anything.
Sheriff's in hand on the attack for Converse. It's the Bulldog for J. Cruel that finds first blood off towards tree side of A. And it's the only person there. It's less of a concern, but that Bulldog, you said it, someone else is now. It's on the side of UCF. Tasmanian Tiger around the bend. Converse, they need to play a little bit close here. How does Squirmer get away with that kill and get away for just a moment, still alive? The boost pack, no, paint shell, final map gets the kill to finish.
Oh, no.
Oh, and B-Niper.
That nade caught on that corner. That's like a pixel.
Last player standing.
Speaking of pixels, a pixel was all that was needed for Scotty. But Moby needs even less. 2-for-1 special right there at the end. In the tying round. Get them the last 2 in the first 2 of the first and second half, respectively. And this is where you'd expect UCF Gold to, you know, get around under their belts. Take the third, get some confidence. but that cannot count out Converse, because if they rush an objective and they stack up on a site that's weaker in player count, it does not matter what weapons you have. They will take the 1 or 2 rifles you have there, using their own, and then just cripple the chances for the next round, even if they were to lose it, let alone if they were given the chance to lose it, they'd at least have a spike play.
You can basically call this a full buy around here from Converse.
Yeah.
I mean, just seeing how many guns they got. Look how close things are. This is why they're taking mount control early. They want to take these fights. They want to get a couple of these guns for free because they don't have close quarter weapons. And it's not even the Vandals we talked about getting the kills. It's Excite. We saw the guy heating up with the Ghost. He said, well, now just give me a sheriff and I'm on fire. And quite frankly, well, 3 kills already to their name. An easy C-site plant. That's exactly what they are.
With the post plant going forward, UCF Gold. Do you save here? I think you do. I think no matter what, your next day is going to go a little bit worse. Like the next round's going to be a little bit worse.
Oh, it's going to be terrible.
Yeah. But at least you'd have 2 rifles, right? You'd have something there. About dying now or dying later, and they choose to die now. Well, flank coming in for Jason. Do they spot the player behind? It will not matter. Stolen instead by JSP. And it is Converse now getting that round advantage under the books. And it's 8-7 the stat line. It's where you want to be. It's where you should be. And the call out, the timeout being called for UCF.
You're making it more difficult for yourself already just with the map selection alone. It's going to be even more horrendous trying to do it with, well, a lack of resources. So, I mean, a little awkward, as I said, but I mean, UCF, I'm not really sure what they can work off of because it all comes down to what happens on a round-to-round basis. What is Converse's guns going to look like in the next round? How much are you going to shut that down? Wildfire sitting on 3,800. You could kind of force this guy together to kind of shut things down. You don't know what ultimates they are going to have in a round like this. Maybe JSP gets nothing. It doesn't have a showstopper. You're never quite sure, so you can never make plans for that just yet. Well, speaking of the ults, though, JSP, you knew an ult orb was probably going to be getting grabbed, and to guarantee that showstopper, best you can really do is just try to force those things out now.
Fallback plan for UFC Gold. Wait for information, poke and prod utility. Listen with your ears and don't guess. But sometimes there's no audio cues. Converse don't even have a real clue where they want to go just yet. They left Spike in attacker spawn for the time being. Just to hold out hope that something's given up for UCF for a first blood to give them leeway on a site here or there. Toxic screen planted over towards tree on the A side could give them a chance to take over towards door. But there's now 3 players there for UCF. Not that Converse would know, but it would be a dangerous choice to engage in that direction. Even if the weapons are limited, anything can happen at this level of play. And you don't want to take that chance. You don't want to make sure everything is under control. Spike's been picked up. Now moving into C in Dallas. It looks like a C-sided push. Players may be moving into B. The Viper is still over on A side. Are they playing for an exit or a rotate frag? Are they playing here for a chance to rotate into B and get their 1? It won't matter. It's Converse to get first blood on that C side, and they have full control now with Wildfire up on stack.
Yeah, and speaking of fire, they were playing with it on the side of Converse to wait so long for a push to come through. That's a lot of gambles. You're hoping to say, okay, I mean, maybe there aren't the player counts here. There could have been. There could have been 3 guys that are completely stalling you out with nano swarms and the whole shebang. They just kind of shut your entire game plan down. But still, things work out for them. And it's at a point in the game now where you're saying, it's more than likely going to go over to Converse. We're just going to hold for mound, shoot whatever players start to push the site and look for a flawless. Off the back of a timeout, well, UCF, I hope you were planning for this next round because if you talked about the last one, we all got news for you.
It didn't work out. I think that was the news you're going for, right?
Yeah. Put it simply.
Good news for UCF, though, Dallas. I don't know if you're aware of this one. There is a 3rd map. So there is some copium. You lose this one, there's a 3rd.
You're at a point, though, where you really would like to not go there.
I mean, I don't disagree. I, for one, would not want to face Converse on any map, let alone having to go to a 3rd map.
I just like to go to Colorads and, you know, dinner's running pretty good right now.
Map. Unfortunately, UCF Gold haven't had the luxury to say that just yet. They have been very much so troubled by the Converse pushes. And now look at the defensive setup for them. It's that KJ and Viper, like you had mentioned, was utilized by Converse defensively. Stacked over on C and B. 3-player main over towards tree. It's so dangerous of a Russian, and it's the same thing we've seen. And we saw how UCF used that against Converse, and how Converse are using it against UCF. They do get first blood, though. B-Niper on a J-Cruel. That is a good idea. They're going to take control of attacker spot and go in for the flank around mound. Do they spot? J. Cruel there. Round the bend they go. Shots have to connect and they're forced to fall back. Guiding Light, B-Niper. Round the corner. Will the Roomba spot them? They do a second Guiding Light and a boost pack to zone. You can't swing without intel, and it is red in the feed. Three in a row. Down goes one, but Converse, what can they do but pray now, as it's a 2-for-1 special. Squirmer down around the corner. You gotta go for the reload first. You're on the defense. You don't gotta wait for them. They've gotta push you. Just not enough. And it's a double digit for Converse.
Well, if there was the time to do it, it would have been in that last round, quite frankly. Sitting in the stance they did, getting it down to 1v1, that was their best case scenario that we've seen the entirety of this half. I mean, it has been nothing but obviously Converse on the board, which we did see the same exact string of rounds, oddly enough. I mean, look at it. We see 5 right now. They haven't nearly met the kind of prowess we saw to UCF Gold. But, I mean, UCF got to rebound a little bit harder here. And this isn't their map selection, keep in mind. This is Converse. So, with them being the attack, them setting the tone here, they got to look better. And quite frankly, with the way they've started so far, and even in a round like this, I think they're keeping it going pretty strong.
Wildfire will hold back. They know UCF are getting pretty aggressive. And they know they just have to wait for it. Down goes Squirmer. They hit their 1v1 at the end of the last round. They don't get this 1v1 here either, with even worse weapons in their hand. And Converse look prepped to go up 11-7 in a very dominating scoreline that I don't think is going to change much at this rate. Third map may just be on the line. Rudy around the bend did see one, but the second one of Wildfire just wasn't really where you wanted it to be. And it's a 1v5 where Jason's just gonna kind of wait before dashing and giving Flawless the Converse win. Or sorry, giving Converse the Flawless win. That was awkward.
Yeah, it is awkward when you see a Flawless win at a point like that. At a stage in the game where we're talking about checkpoint, chokehold kind of scenario, and just Converse run over it with flying colors. I mean, still a eco round from UCF there, but I mean, we're at a point now where you can't really afford that too much. You got to really start kind of stepping things up. And B-Niper, keep in mind this player, we saw 15-1 earlier, did we not? 17-13. That's showing that there's one guy who just is not in this game anymore nearly. Just completely falling asleep at the wheel. And, well, sure, you're on the defensive side, but we had to see that kind of continue on the attacking side. And ever since I mentioned this, that 1v2 has just completely slowed down. But, hey, in a round like this, already going ahead, looking to go underway with the plant going on top of that B side, we get to see what a B retake looks like. And keep in mind, this is the exact same kind of scenario where we saw UCF starting to get their blunders on their attacking side. So maybe you can do the same thing for Converse. Who knows?
Well, it's not starting out well for UCF Gold. They have to get a refrag, and Rudy does so well. Looks like in JSP now. 2-for-1 special. The one has yet to go in the favor of Converse. Till just now, J. Cruel and Wildfire. Wombo combo for one apiece. It's Rudy still alive and pounding back the pressure. 3 kills in this round. Rudy almost got usurped by J. Cruel, but not just yet. Squirmer. Down goes the assassin Viper of J. Cruel. And it's just Moby. Is this it, UCF Gold? I don't think there's time. There's not. What started out and ended so darn close. UCF just weren't fast enough.
Match point.
And it is now match points. 1 round feasibly away to Dallas for our 3rd map of the day.
That was the round there. I mean, once again, that was the line. It wasn't just an entire round. I mean, I was kind of expecting God to work in his mysterious ways and kind of have some fun with rounds like that, and we did see it almost occur. We saw the chances be presented there for the likes of UCF to get that round, but I mean, even in the retake had to go a little bit quicker. You had to find those kills where necessary, and that was where UCF had to say, this is our wake-up moment. And because they just kind of faltered just the tiniest bit, you're seeing map point immediately. That's not a luxury that was allotted to UCF earlier on. They didn't see that score line in the same exact kind of manner, and now because you just didn't see it in that lens of later on, of the same kind of situation you would have maybe in the second half, you just see the game almost get blundered, basically. So because of the result, you got to win 6 in a row. Or better yet, just at least 5. And then kind of look at the OT scenario, because that's going to be guaranteed from this point. But it's a long road to even get to that stage, looking at how the game's going right now.
Rotate will be made away from the C side initially. The Viper's pit is down, so it's obviously the concern about trying to push in through that. You had highlighted B was impossible for UCF Gold on their attack when the Viper's pit was placed there. Not just because the Viper's pit, but because they just were really poor on that B side, to be fair. And now they'll have to be concerned about the other objectives, and Spike moving in towards B. I think they like the idea of it. It worked previously. Why not go for it again? So much utility. JSP
Blast himself back.
and the bite goes forward. They just got to nail the boost back, and you can't do so, Dallas. If you're completely blinded with a guiding light around that bend, unlucky as it may be, they still going to clap back their way as Jason goes down. It's Wildfire to collect for it with the Vandal.
No, for an ult isn't a bad trade, I'd say there, but it really comes down to what else is going to happen here. From the shadows, going for a little bit of a flank. You know, players can be on the outside of this, and lining up for collateral there is going to be a really good security to go ahead and make sure you get that next round to play with. So, I mean, UCF, I'm happy to see them kind of be on the board for this entire half. And, I mean, they still had themselves a shot. But once again, it's still 4 rounds in a row. They have a lockdown to play with. Converse, I mean, they only need 1. And after finding already 7 consecutively in a half like this, you have to say there's no way they don't get 1 more.
Yeah. It feels like Converse are just being gatekept in the final moment. But it seems an inevitability. UCF Gold, they take this round. They have to win 2 in a row here. I mean, first off, they have to win in any way, but they have to win the next 2 in a row very confidently because they got to put Converse on an eco round at some point or another. And the only way to do that is to take this round somewhat well and the next round pretty well, and then hope that they have something afterwards. And they'll put you in double digits. You'll fight for that one for your 11th round win, and then you play an even game for the 12th because Converse will save up for it to get there. You haven't been winning most of the even games. Yeah, you've been struggling to win when you have. And that's a major problem, a major point of contention for UCF. And even then, you're still going to OT. And you are very fickle right now, 50-50 across this board. And right now, it's looking more 60-40 as you are struggling on the defense. It would be 50-50 coming in that second half. And it's just a prayer about who loses first on their attack. And Converse have looked very few and far between so far for that.
It all comes down to a matter of perspective. I mean, when you're in a big deficit, like say 4 rounds right now, which in the big scheme of things, looking at match point for the other, or at least map point for the other side, I mean, 4 points is a lot. Here, let me go ahead and kind of play mind games with people. 4 rounds looks like a lot, but 2 doesn't seem like very much, does it? 2 full buy rounds is all you really have to win because the ecos afterwards are just kind of going to follow naturally, right? So, I mean, if you look at the eco rounds, you look at the thrifties, if a team's not very successful in thrifties, you're saying, hey, this is pretty even. This is pretty easy. That's definitely extremely doable. One thing that you got to make sure to do right now, though, is at least win the first one. And already, when we see Excite going ahead, playing around, looking to get a couple kills there, stringing them together, you barely got the time to get it down. You go for the push and lock it down for 1 more. So we see a 3-round difference now. But as I mentioned earlier, I think you'll need to win 1 more. Because as you mentioned, this is going to be possibly an eco for some of the players to a certain degree. Or at least somewhat of a half buy. So, I mean, this isn't going to be flawless. But still, off the back of a round like this, if you win the next one, as you said, they're going to save up for the last. To where you only really need to win 2 rounds, and the other 2 should follow suit. And this will be your second because of how the economy was panning out.
Here. Thank you for the breakdown, Dallas. Much better spoken than I could have. Essentially the same gist, though. We nailed it. And UCF Gold have 1 roll left to give themselves the chance. They're doing a wonderful
my
job.
God.
My
They're
goodness,
waking up.
3 now for them. UCF Gold do not want our 3rd map. I do not blame them. We've been here for quite a while, and having an extra hour on top for this matchup, I just feel like UCF would not be content with the workaround, and that gives Converse too many opportunities. They need to do a little bit better for it. A 5v2, Converse will be happy with just giving themselves a little bit of space and denying opportunities going the other way, but it will not matter.
Down A.
Just Moby, Tasmanian Tiger, information
Oh my
flawless
God!
for UCF Gold. And this next one will be an eco for Converse. I cannot envision a world they're able to put something solidly enough together with an average of 2,900 credits apiece to their name. And they're going to save up for that 12-12 round where they hope to deny the 12-11 split, but hope to deny the 12-12. They'll save up for the big one. But they'll do the dirty work to try and just make it so that they can't or force an ultimate from UCF.
Even in Converse, I mean, you're in a point where you're saying, okay, what do we go for here? You have the Stingers, you have the Sheriffs, you're saying, what kind of lineups do we go for? Obviously, you don't challenge A in your lifetime. That's the dumbest thing you could ever do in your life. But already, I mean, if you go for C, that's good looking. B, that's good looking. I mean, you're going for what your ballistics will start to excel in. So those two sides of the maps are going to be extremely well taken care of. But the surprising thing for me is how they don't have another player allocated over towards C. You need to have this at least doubled down. And it looks like an idea of theirs from the side of, UCF. But it looks like it could be lackluster. You're going to have a blast packing race coming right to you with a gun in hand, looking to just kind of absolutely barrel shove you. But even then more so, you just got to play the stall game here. You got to drop things down. Make sure that toxic screen, don't even leave it up. Work for the angles. Don't have the smokes. Let these long ranges come to you and find those fights to win right off the get-go and rob resources from them. It's just concerning seeing UCF. I mean, obviously they have a game plan. They want to stall this thing out, but seeing how passive they're playing, they give it up this real estate, letting Converse play around the site where these angles get so much more favorable for them.
The rotate's been made for Converse. They started off in C towards Mound. They'll come up through tree.
They're on
now
it.
Got good control. A-site push will come forward. Down goes JSP around the bend. Moby gets first blood, and J. Cruel does the second. Converse, they'll put down a Viper's Pit. Yes, the Seekers will go in after the fact. But Squirmer is in a very desperate spot. They're going to die here. This is beautiful.
So
gorgeous from Moby, and it's a 2v5. Rifles have been regained for Converse, and third map is around the bend from one of the most gorgeous displays of what an eco round can do for you. Scotty round in, sees J. Cruel, down goes the Viper's Pit around the corner, needs to be wary of the player by door. You have two doors to worry about, B door and this door here, and Jason just opened up this one. Down around the corner, lines up, make it up! It's a 1v1! The rush has to go, Jason, you have to push! Is there time?
Imagine if I died right now.
I don't think there is.
I think he's got it. I think he's got it.
Oh my God! An unbelievable performance from Converse, met and matched by UCF Gold in a 2v5. What an engagement, what a game. We're not done just yet.
Dude. I thought UCF blundered that so hard when they gave up A site. That is the largest lane in this game that we see, where UCF, they just have to section a singular player over there. And then what do you know? The longest distance towards a site somehow is the easiest one acquired by Converse. And then when they get there, they start to excel. You cannot let that happen. For goodness sake, you've got to think about where these guys are going to go, and you can't give anything up for free. And especially in a round like this, where you now, not only the eco's behind you, the stress has now been mitigated, but still there's one more round you got to go to at least look for overtime. You possibly got at least 3 more rounds of stress minimum in front of you if you win this next one.
Timeout's over. Converse, you needed 1 round for the last 5.
If they lost, they deserve it, honestly. That's all I was thinking. I was like, oh, fair enough.
This is... And, can we just devolve a little bit and talk about how gorgeous Moby's play in general for that round was? First blood with the Sheriff, really nice to put UCF on a back burner. J. Crew with the Stinger to get the second, but Moby's double toss for the Nano Swarm next to Drop of Heaven.
Yeah, he wasn't risking it.
That was unbelievably important. And it was so close for UCF, so close to get out of there. But so close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, and it does not work here.
No
shot
way!
from Wildfire.
Oh
B-Niper
my God!
should have hit that one, but they double swung, and it was just perfect enough. And they'll trade out, and they'll get up the Ransom instead. They'll leave the operator closer in towards sight. No one's going to use that for Converse, but you know they're knocking on the door. See, you got to pivot someone there, and I just don't think there's enough. Squirmer's nearby, but is door even pulled? It's not. Only to make noise to even have a chance to retake on that side.
You're ready for Seekers here. Getting early aggression, looking to just kind of go ahead and release the floodgates for the C site. Set up for the post plant. Completely just kind of take control of Mound, but I don't know. What else is available here? What else can you really do? The Paranoia already goes ahead and funnels players out. You can't really do too much in actual terms of a defense. You got 3 players just scattered about the map, and Seekers going ahead and spreading just to tell you exactly where they are. Meanwhile, you're going to go ahead, set up shop, get nice and comfy, throw down some nano swarms, alarm bots, get back towards that mound, and just kind of play with the guns that you got to work with because nobody's on that flank. The line of scrimmage is set, comes out of the retake, and as you mentioned, no player's going to pick up the operator from Converse. We get cast a curse of it because somebody wants to have a little bit of fun here before they call this thing scraps and go into map number 3.
I think map number 3 may just happen. Scotty's in a 1v4 and is quickly
Attackers win.
LG dashed in for the hop, skip, and a shorty to close and secure 13. Been very popular so far in Red Bull Campus Clutch, both in the qualifiers and actually in Istanbul as well. We've seen a lot of it getting played. I know Fisher utilized it quite a bit when they did face their loss and they got knocked out and didn't get to punch their ticket into it. This map is very good for certain agents, and I think Cypher is absolutely one of them, and it is being picked up for either
I hear
side.
he's miserable. That's the best way we've heard him be explained here on this map, is he is miserable to play against.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. He is suffocating.
Because there's an angle where you just can't shoot the tripwire. You have to run into it.
It's very difficult, and that would almost force you to the idea you have to play a jet to try to tailwind through it as best you can, or just try to burn it with some sort of utility. Maybe your prayer here is that your Rays, which both sides have picked up as well as expected, can just boost back over the top and then turn midair to knock it down a peg or something. But yeah, it's ridiculously annoying facing off against that Cypher. And we've also seen plenty of like upper windows on the push in towards B when you're working in from B lobby. The very dangerous prowl in through middle courtyard. You have to try to work over towards market side. All of that is so darn annoying to deal with. To top it all off, the B main entrance is hard to get out of as well. In A site, it's a maze around those bins. You have to be very good on the attack to pick out this map, and Converse starts us off strong here with the first map.
Speaking of B, we're already playing rock, paper, scissors. You're going ahead expecting that Cypher to be there, and you've already gone ahead and got the memo that, hey, there's a camera over here. He most definitely is not. He just placed that, and there is no tripwire towards that B side of the map. But already you can see that still there's an allocation of players. They had the double down, but even the more so, that's on the defensive side. The attackers, they've already looked through the middle of the map a little bit. They've gotten that control. They know that more than likely a tripwire is going to be there, but they want to catch the rotation. They want to go ahead and catch these guys by surprise. And I mentioned earlier, you can get through spawn pretty darn easily on this map, and already on round 1, we're probably going to see it.
Jason, round the bin, classic in hand. The plays from courtyard. You haven't found the safe space just yet. Prowler goes left. The team is right, and they'll re-pivot back over towards A main to try to push in for the main entry.
Read.
The rotate is being perfectly countered. It's a gorgeous representation of fooling around and letting the other team find out. When the utility goes one way, they expect it to, but it's not going to happen. Plant will start to go down. JSP will ensue it. They try to send out the spy cam. And well, it does, I think it missed the target it was anticipated to go towards. It has not worked out so far for UCF Gold, so they can punch their ticket for first blood. Down goes Wildfire. B-Niper round the right side of the bend, hoping Scotty gets their 1-for-1, which they do, but JSP gets 2 before falling on their own. Converse, yes, it's post plant, but you gotta hit a shot, Moby. Where's that been the previous map? Converse would have been very much so struggling to get wins if UCF were having to face that the whole time. Jason, all alone. I think this one's a done and done story. This is just a ridiculously hard spot to come back from. Jason will stick it to half. Can they stand it? No, Moby can hit a shot when they stand still, but it's a 1-round win now for Converse to stake things off in the attack.
Yeah, good lead there by Converse. I mean, almost that rotation, the way they had it just kind of bred out. It looked like animal control. Those big poles they put on the leash of it, with the tiny leash on the end. It's just like, as forward as I go, you were following the same exact position. And quite frankly, they kept UCF at a controllable stance and were able to go ahead and get the damage down when going off those retates as well. So, I mean, so good stance from them. Going ahead, starting things off aggressively, but even better yet, just kind of more fluently. Knowing the way they moved around the map, check every single box off first. Took attendance is always the way I like to refer to. Just making sure that everything's in its place, that they're kind of going through inventory and saying, all right, this is here, this is here, this is here. Now that we understand how this map is laid out, we go for a hit. And, well, they chose A that last round. They're probably going to go for B in this one. They want to figure out what these defaults are looking like, and there is no default. We are seeing a switch up. Cypher on the A site last round with Sky and Astra being towards, B. Now completely swapping it on its head and kind of reversing the players and their positions, but still, it's going to work out for them, at least to a certain degree, as they've already found the first 2 bloods. An outstanding start here from UCF.
Side speaking for it, very worried about the possibility of a trap wire. It's not there, though. Scotty collected a nice Spectre, uses it for 2 to gain their 3rd kill of the round. And Rudy with a classic headshot kill to J. Cruel. 1 for 1, something that has been a little bit more common recently, Dallas.
Not a flawless, though.
Yeah,
That's one of a kind. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Very rare. We did see good... actually, I won't say that. We had a flawless round in round 3 of the second half of the game prior, but I'm not going to count that. That's round 3.
Yes,
No, getting a 1-1 split where it's flawless with a team that lost the first round, very shocking results. And hopefully UCF Gold can make use of all those weapons because they are going to have a lot to dismantle the Converse push, which is pretty heavily coming over right now towards B. They left Spike behind, so there's no commitment yet for their side.
And if you end around like this, it looks like, I mean, things are swooped on its head. It looks like we're in an alternate universe right now where UCF won the first round and Converse is now kind of on the back end where they're now sitting on their second round with nothing but classics. And UCF just has a stronger buy. They got more guns. They have Vandals. They have Guardians. They have these big boomer guns to where you're just saying, I can just hit one headshot and kind of call it quits there. They've already done that. They surmounted so much damage off the back of what they had to work with so far. They have lost a singular player, but still consider the rifling in hand. You've also done a heck of a lot of damage. So the rest of this should be pretty kind of just, I'd say, you know, folded. But even then, who knows? We've seen UCF already kind of turn this game on its head once. Maybe Converse will take their turn, but it's going to take a little bit more considering already the health pool that they're working with, if anything.
Good clearance of util by Wildfire. Needs to know where they are and what they can do. Out comes the smoke, and Scotty plays within the Cypher cage just the same. That could have been a lot bigger. Could have let them cook a little longer, but unfortunately you marinate too long and you can burn it, and that's exactly what happens to Scotty. They let themselves sit still for too long. Stagnated, and it rotted, and now it's Converse. At an even player advantage. The paint shells will take down one. It's finished off by B Niper and Rudy. Double rifle to secure. And everyone got a piece of the pie for UCF Gold. But it's still way too close for comfort, Dallas. But that does mean the players that died can buy rifles to match everyone else on the team. So honestly, I would dare argue that is still a wonderful result for them.
Across the board, really good just from both these sides. Kind of keep it. I mean, this map, as you can already tell just from these first couple rounds, is extremely nitty-gritty. Like, it is all over the place. You're never really sure what you're going to see. You never really know what to expect. And quite frankly, you can't expect anything. You can't even expect direct hits on sights as defenders. You're having to watch your backs, too. Look at your spawns. Because even then, look at the scenario. Already, tripwires. None towards that center of the map where you either need to, A, allocate a player over there or have a tripwire. And with neither present, you could completely get roundhoused. But they're not really going to go for that just yet. They want to go for a little bit of a D split and already looking kind of the area around the map, understanding that nobody's there and seeing a kill towards the back of the map. Look at that top of the mini-map already. You're surmounting so many kills. You're getting literally everywhere to where, honestly, UCF just can't make a read for the life of them because there's just so much stress coming from every single angle.
When the going gets tough, you got to get tough, and right now UCF Gold can't. What an engagement by Converse.
That's a nightmare.
You are talking about the speed. Wildfire's cleared 5 pieces of utility on a single sprint using just the classic. Money just runs in. Money's like, I can take care of the person. I'll just hold left click, clearing that corner. Something will hit because they're likely going to be there. With your last chance to step out of Boba and a 2v5, you pray the boost back and create space, but it's a double swing. You get one, but it's done. 3 kills for Moby. Gorgeous round for Converse, and tying things up 2-2. They now have the momentum, and yes, there's still a buy available for UCF Gold, but if it turns out anything like last round, this is Converse's round to lose.
It's just another one of those scenarios. I mean, this is one of those maps to where if you execute a round perfectly, it feels like it. It's not just a standard, okay, execute from the 2 mains, go ahead, split up, get on the site, get the plant, and then just set up for post. With this map here, specifically, you can literally play it like Rainbow Six to a degree. You can take this site from every single angle, including spawn, to where when we saw that kind of point where you see a singular kill the back of the map, they have to literally watch everything, and it just feels like you cannot play the game. You're just being suffocated in a singular spot, no matter whether you're in the back of the map or even then on either side, just kind of hiding behind something. You could still get just shot in the back of the head. You can see the pings coming through, letting them know that these guys are forgetting to put these trips up to where you can use that side of the map if you do so feel like it. Find that pressure, take advantage of it, make sure these guys get kind of circumnavigated back towards our spawn, if anything, and just put this game on its head.
Squirmer hit by a big piece of utility, but the Rolling Thunder comes out nonetheless in Converse. They want this B side, and they have taken it quite well. Dangers aren't done just yet, though. They worked in from markets. They'll need a step back and fallback plan if they're not losing players in the process. Moby and J. Cruel won't be at the wrong end of the barrel. They'll strike for 2. And put now a 4 versus 2 split with Plant going down and UCF Gold with just 1 man left after Rudy takes a headshot to go down. It's Jason. You're trying to step out of Boba. Dallas, you talked about dangerous spots and the annoyance of dealing with a Cypher. Try picking a 3-way split and make it 4 with Excite holding this angle as well. There is no chance Jason makes it out of this. They'd have to pray, and their prayers go unanswered as Moby gets the final blood and puts a 3rd round in the coffin right now for Converse to go up and above UCF.
I mean, 2 in a row now. I mean, 2 of the most gorgeous attacking side rounds that we've probably seen out of a team so far.
Feet, and those 2 feet can be shot out from underneath you. UCF with this timeout can hope and pray, but they've had buys. They've done well. They got their resurgent round. They played in. They got their double buy in return. They had matched up in round 2 or round 3. I apologize. Now, where is that? Where's the impact? It's going to have to be found with Sheriffs and a single Marshal. And we saw the Marshal ring so darn heavy in the first game of the day, Dallas, on Ascent. And a neat go-around that entirely had swung things back in favor for Converse at the time. Didn't give them the win for sure, but gave them a round win off the back of a Marshal. Now UCF Gold will have to rely on the same exact thing, and an arguably much tougher map to do so with so many corners and angles you'll have to try to stray away from.
Well, it comes down to really, once again, the approach. We don't see the B side being hit this time. We don't really see any mid-control coming out here from the side of Converse, so there's some chances here for a little bit of a slip up, maybe. That's where we saw it on the last map. Keep in mind, Lotus. We saw UCF kind of go for that approach towards another area of the map. Didn't work out too well for them, but it's also because they just kind of wanted to stretch their wings a little bit. Didn't want to get too predictable. You can see the kind of hole coming down where they're kind of setting up to make sure to kind of hold the entirety of that B side, which adds the switch up, conditioning this team, this defense to look towards that B side of the map. And A execute is finally coming through, and it seems to be uncontested. Keep in mind, this is a little bit of eco, so obviously it's not going to be the greatest hold in the world, but it's good to at least kind of figure out what's going on there. And with Jason finding at least 1, you know that, well, we can figure things out a little easier when we have man advantage.
Jason pops out a Rolling Thunder of their own.
That's
what we saw
crazy.
Converse doing the round prior, but it can't keep Converse down. Wildfire up high, using the advantage of straying the lines of sight even further. Elevation is key, and that is the perfect way to shut down all points of possible contention on a retake. Combo that in with you got Wildfire up high and Excite's hanging down low. You thought it was just a 1-for-1. You see the individual, but there was a second unmanned drone up above, and that person just obliterates all of your pressure coming in from Alley. Maybe they needed to transition 1 towards Link as well, because they threw everything in that one way. And one way it went straight into the afterlife. 4-2 now the split. And Converse do not look to be stopped. They do have to face against the UCF side, who are now 1 man down already. This is rough.
No, I mean...
Whoa.
I just can't.
I have the spike.
The
What a
eco
usage
rolling
jump
thunder
there
is
by JSP.
crazy. And that's the second time he's gotten himself an aftershock kill, which is really impressive, all things considered. I don't know if it's a testament to Converse and just not being able to move and understand what that utility does, or UCF just kind of choosing the perfect places to get it down. But I mean, I don't really care about the aftershock too much with Jason getting 2 kills with the Vandal afterwards. Those are a lot more skill involved, I'd say. And even then, with the player shitting back, there's a lot more at risk.
This is a ridiculously good round from UCF to put things back in return. JSP gets caught out. You talked about it. You worried about the ass shot kill, but the problem there lies. You had to have assistance to do so. You guiding light around that bend. You play smart. You rotate back over to the A site. You keep them out of tiles. That's the important thing. You keep them away from there and force them to funnel in towards main instead, where you have the brim in the first. The breach in the first place to contend with. And now you can attempt to do the same thing. They start an A lobby, the move towards tiles, they put their omen there more specifically. It is a full courtyard take right now from the side of Converse, bar 1 player. The Cypher they've left inside B main will have to deal with the same Cypher utility placed there. They'll need market control, Dallas, to clear that trap wire.
I don't don't know if they're going to find that, quite frankly. Already backing up completely in the spawn, kind of turning tail. You have a lurking player, which I have to respect, quite frankly. Go ahead, throw it all out there, kind of create a little bit of an illusion, but if you don't hear blast packs, you're more than likely calling for the other side of the map. I mean, let's be real. That's what it comes down to. You gotta have that aggressive. You gotta have that catalyst for a push. And well, with Wildfire being that catalyst and getting shut down in the process, you're still equal at the end of the day.
Sniper having to worry about a dark cover. Don't have the ability to extend in towards site. They'll have 3 players coming in from defender spawn.
30 seconds left.
1 from Link, 2 from Alley. Despite all the noise that's been made by Converse, look at the patience from UCF to just say, hey, maybe this isn't the time. We'll just wait out and see where they're truly going to go, and that will be B instead. But the call out needs to be made, and it's finally called out by the Cypher on the side of UCF. Hey guys, it's B site from the shadows, full utility, dump into the objective. We need to retake it quickly.
Camera taken out.
I mean, you still got plenty of time here on the board. Spike just went down, and you've got all the utility to work with. Make sure you kind of get something to work out here. I mean, a neural theft on both sides. You can see where first initial kill comes through. You can actually kind of find that roundabout. And already back and forth and back and forth. I mean, it's equilibrium across the field, but even then, eventually, you're going to see it even out once more. Already, you see it once, again, and again, and again. And Jason being the catalyst, I want to say, for at least 2 or 3 of these kills, you got to get the tap. You got to at least get 1 shot. That's all it takes. And finally, it does go off. With just barely, I think, enough time. It's gonna be so darn close, but it's at least there with less than half a second remaining to get it done.
0.32, which is slightly better than the 0.64. In fact, it's half the 0.64 that was there for that big clutch run that came out from UCF on our last map at the end, where we thought in the latter stages of the first and second half, you do not want to give them momentum.
I think looking at this, I mean, UCF, I think, quite frankly, have had a lot more just kind of, not confidence, just feeling a little more calm in their shoes on the side of the map on defense. I mean, it seems they're sitting equilibrium, tied things up. Obviously, Converse off the back of that timeout, but still, UCF has had to use nearly none. I mean, look at their ultimate economy. 4 available, Jason at 7 out of 9. They're just playing their game, that they don't really need to invest anything extra to go above and beyond. Meanwhile, Converse is having to spread these things out what feels like pretty consistently between each other just to look for relevancy, to get them the spike down in the first place. But only time will tell, because once more, first blood going underway. Scotty hold on to that site, tripwire galore over towards B. You know that more than likely it's going to be really difficult to get that. And even though you found yourself a first kill, eventually a trade does come out.
SP the player to do so. No rotate over to the A site and plants. Tease for a moment. Rudy could have had that kill a little bit sooner. Will not matter. Shot goes awry from B-Niper. They got to go for a second. They flicked over, but it's not good enough. Squirmer. 1v2. J. Cruel exceptionally low. Will Shrouded step up to the high ground, and this variation in elevation will have to be enough. They flick to JSP, but it's over and done. What a shot from JSP to save Grace and Squirmer. This doesn't seem to have that clutch factor down. In these big clutch 1v1, 1v2 scenarios we saw at the end of the second map and now here in the third, they're a good player, but they need to be able to close those out, and unfortunately just a little bit too shy of it.
I mean, Squirmer's definitely doing a great job in the assist department, though. I mean, playing that initiator role right, kind of getting what's necessary, just kind of being there, being present in what feels like as many gunfights as possible. I mean, with Rudy obviously being an Astra, it's a heck of a lot easier to do that. But still, knowing that you actually are required to have some involvement of proximity there, it's a lot to ask for. And still, this early in the game to still kind of be prevalent in that regard is at least good on them. But in a round like that, you can't really chalk it up too much to yourself. You see how the game's going, back and forth we go. It's just over and over and over again to where UCF, they have got themselves a pretty good stance. They have a great understanding of this map. And quite frankly, even then, if they don't have the guns, they couldn't care less. They still find kills at the end of the day.
UCF gold. Had the advantage by 2. J. Cruel's nice frag on a B-Niper drops it just to a single. Moby, neural theft. It's a huge cost, I would say, but you don't use it very often, Dallas. One of the weaker ultimates, all things considered. If you can find a good spot to do it, it gives you information on what's the weaker sites. You're gonna take it. And this Rolling Thunder is about 10 yards short of any impact.
I
Maybe they're expecting a plant to the back of sight. assuming that they have their Cypher deep in towards the B lobby side anyways. But you're making a lot of assumptions. B main isn't as dangerous as you anticipated to be. Moby. Blood under Rudy. J. Cruel is pre-firing and walking a corner. What is Converse on right now, Dallas? Because it is ridiculous what they have been able to accomplish on this map on the attack with these sprints.
That was one of the most, I'd say, hectic games of Ring Around the Rosie that we saw right there on the B side. I understand the Rolling Thunder. You thought that players were there towards the back. You didn't see the crossover there from the players. You didn't get the tripwire to go off. So it was understandable for Scotty to say they're not on the close side. They have to be towards the back of it. Because I just watched that. They haven't really made the angle yet. It feels a little bit closer and a little bit earlier. Honestly, I say Scotty's good for 2 there, without a doubt. But it just comes out of that window. The call's being made, and the kind of hesitation that shows that kind of proficiency really needs to excel in. So already, though, we're seeing another round going our way. We're seeing now the guns in hand. We're seeing these players get aggressive and look for these rounds, and already you're seeing for a post-plant better yet, and maybe another aftershock kill. Who knows? It's just damage and players on Converse being alive at the rear end of it all.
Spike planted.
Sight will get that plant down, and UCF... Well, what can they do about it? They'll need to retake. Paint shells go through to try to flush Wildfire a little bit further back. They haven't made any leeway here, Dallas, to get in. 1 player on Link's side, 2 wanting to come from Alley, but with no more dedication, no more spread towards Wildfire. In that elbow side, you are walking into a death trap, and that is coming even more true. Squirmer in a 1v3 gets 1. Refrags Wildfire. But a 7-4 split
Last round
looks
in the half.
even more dangerous, as this could possibly go above and beyond to an 8-4. Because UCF Gold don't even have enough to buy up proper rifles, proper armor, and full utility alongside to boot. It's basically a thrifty round. A good thrifty round, but a thrifty round nonetheless.
Yeah, it's something. But, I mean, even then, as we get ourselves to the last round of the half, you get to look at what's left. And quite frankly, UCF, not only do they not really have the guns available to them, they don't have the ultimate economy comparative to what we see at a Converse on a point like this. Sure, I talked about the investments earlier being made in the ultimates, but already what they've accomplished so far has been outstanding ever since that point. I mean, now sitting with 3 to play with, full buys across the board. That last round was spectacular just to go ahead and get things started. And sure, you only had 2 players remaining there to start, but even then more so to kind of go ahead and start things off and find maybe 2, 3 kills back to back before even maybe kind of considering an answer from the side of UCF is really good. Knowing what you can trade off there. But Rudy, speaking of trades, finding the trade of a lifetime, going 2 for 1 to avenge his brother in arms to kind of cut some of those guns down.
Face your
Be very careful when you're engaging so effectively on the defense. Anything can come back the other way, and they're doing a very wonderful job for Converse to split things up. From the shadows to get them out of elbow and more so onto the A site for a plant. They wanted to do back behind the elbow. They'll do so a little bit more close to default and over closer towards A main. Not where we've seen them plant it too often so far, but they know there's a lot of pressure and a man advantage for UCF coming from Alley and Link. So they're gonna play in response to exactly that. Side, good for 1, needs a second, does so well. B-Niper needed to connect and just couldn't. It excites. Job's not done. 4 kills now in this round, closing it out, and that's 8-4 at halftime for a very good Converse team who are now looking to make a full comeback after a dominated game on Ascent for UCF. They want to go 2-0 at the end to close out this series 2-1.
Yeah, good look at Zero already. I mean, once again, sitting at 8-4 on the board, Converse on the attacking side. You're expecting them with them setting the pace of these rounds under that entire half being on the attacking side, they can take control of the map. And we saw that start to accumulate there, especially in those latter 4 that we saw. But even in early stages, UCF, I want to say they kind of got that luxury with that second round, completely getting that turn up. And I thought that they were going to kind of show that their shooting was just on point, especially after that second round. But it just showed to kind of just maybe be a little bit of a one-off. And ever since then, they haven't been asleep at the wheel by any means necessary, but they just haven't really shown what they're fully capable of just yet. So already looking to kind of go for the standard play of an aggressive B push, going to run right into that tripwire. They've already shut it down. What are they going to do as a follow-up? Well, they're going to just go ahead and invest a Trailblazer and go for a 5-man.
Wow, my eye cage triggered.
Well, has the information. Need to play smart from this point onwards. Trapwire, Cypher cage up, deep position for B-Niper, being decayed and having to constantly worry about that fade in the opposition. Is this enough? Is Converse truly going to be able to keep them back? I think they can. And Wildfire will have to play on the side here of the B pillar. It's everyone for the side of UCF Gold, bar just the Cypher, who is rotating away. Scotty is in fear for their life from top mid. Trying to work in from B main. It's a kill for B-Niper, who played so aggressively up front. Excite has to get the refrag after 2 go their way. And Squirmer steps up afterwards. This is what Converse needed to take. A loss early to give UCF a boon. But it's not over. Very low HP players go down. And Converse are only at a 2v3 of disadvantage. It's a 1-player differential. They're all on the same side. They need the assistance, but Jason just right-clicks and lays fire upon everyone exiting from Boba. He gives UCF the first round.
I'm surprised they even found that round, quite frankly. I mean, consider what we saw to UCF. I mean, there's an entire limbo period where you saw B-Niper on site. Everybody else was kind of sitting behind. Converse was giving the rain fire, and quite frankly, nobody could really follow up and look for something. They had to stall for the entire time to get another guiding light to play off the back of, and it was just an awkward situation in general. But still, once that flash came through, that second one was ready. You saw way too much space between the sides of the opposition of the defenders and kind of holding on to that site and being ready to legitimately hold it. And it just seemed kind of more of like a foot race of which team can really get on that site and hold it down first. And your defenders are supposed to win that, and they just didn't, even though they already had the space allocated towards them. So a little awkward there for Converse, but still a lot of leeway between them, knowing that it's 4 rounds, and I mentioned it earlier, talking about how you get the eco and the full buy kind of back and forth. You essentially only have to win 2 to equalize it, and you've already done half of that. But even in a situation like this where the team's going to be guaranteed to buy eventually, but not right now, you can get those 2 right out the way. You got to get the 2 next ones, which are going to be a lot more difficult with this kind of, leftover, with the force, with the just anything there off the next bonus that they're going to have to work off of. That is if they even get there. Because keep in mind, we saw UCF earlier. They had an outstanding second round. Completely swapped up this game on its head and was off the get-go. I don't know if Converse is going to have that same element of surprise.
Yeah, I think the difficulty is for agent selection alone and the difference between them will do it. And it's only a difference of 1. It's just enough, I think, that gave UCF that little bit of leeway they needed for that big upturn in the second round. Scotty starts off strong in this one, though, for the second half. 2 kills to their name. They do fall, and the weapon is collected by Converse. UCF have sights. They've got a good post plant. They've got 4 players inside of B main. And yes, it can get smoked off, but you know where it is. Your player can ping it. You can only guess where they're going to be exactly. It's like the long angle you see on Haven. It's just a matter of spraying down effectively. Moby with a classic somehow takes down Squirmer. Jason able to deny Wildfire of that pressure. And there goes B-Niper, a 2-for-1 special to close and secure. UCF Gold will take to get their 6th round, the second round of this half, only losing 2. But that still is 2 more weapons that Converse will have really set up for this next round unless UCF go for the buy, and I think they will with Scotty getting up a Vandal.
Yeah, you go for whatever you can here, quite frankly. I mean, you're looking at momentum here for the side of UCF, and even in Converse, they're obviously going to go for their legit purchase, but even then, Wildfire doesn't have enough to really kind of go ahead and surmount to meet the rest of the squad. Not the biggest deal in the world here, considering that you're Rage, you're looking at more of a retake scenario, you're looking for those early engages, and honestly, with the Guardian, that's your best shot. But even then, you got, once again, no players scattered towards the middle, no tripwire sanctioned towards that part of the map, and seeing how this game's being played out, I mean, it's crazy to see how these attackers haven't really flexed themselves fully out yet. In a round like this, considering that you have a little bit of an experimental buy, I would say an experimental approach would kind of match it pretty darn well, as they kind of understand that B hit just outright may not be the move for something like this.
UCF, I want to point out, when they played on Ascent on the attack, they played exceptionally slow for over half the rounds. And the reason why they did so is because they wanted to get that first blood. They wanted to use utility to try to bait that they're pushing one objective over the other. And for a large majority of their pushes, they were kind of an unknown factor of success on that A side. They were really good on B. They had very few successes initially on A, and they needed to make up for that. They played slow. And they waited till they got more comfortable, and then they swung forward. They're trying to do the same thing here. Pistol round's not enough to get comfortable. They've got to get back into the safe space. And and they've been denied of it here on A, a lot like they were
30
early
seconds
on
left.
Ascent against Converse in our first game of the series. First blood goes against them. They have to frag back. Squirmer does so with a Bulldog to Wildfire, and Scotty gets two almost.
Oh my
Sniper
God.
takes it, but that may just be the nail in the coffin for Converse for this round. Gorgeous for UCF Gold, and anyone hurt, there's a regrowth
planted.
in the sky, and that's the big difference, I think, in agents between them. The only true difference in agents, but that regrowth keeps UCF at a full fighting force.
It's these twist-ups, man, and it's UCF bringing them every single time. We're saying, okay, this is supposed to be an expected round. We look at the flow of things and how, once again, you know, back and forth and here and there. We're saying what's predictable. It's always Converse kind of blundering down, but maybe it's finally their turn to at least go ahead, and every single time they win, it seems like, okay, this is how it's supposed to go before they had a rocky road before it, but still, the defuse being
Last
stuck.
player standing.
Nobody's swinging it until, good God, they have no close how. They have no idea how close that was, but regardless, it may not even matter at the end of the day. With the half swing going through, you have to keep on checking this thing with the bubble going down. Squirmer, you mentioned that clutch factor. Sure, it was a little bit handed to him, but hey, it's there at the end of the day, and you win one more.
Squirmer, you can take it to me on Twitter. You can at me, you can yell at me, berate me, whatever you want to do.
No. That's okay. Look, that wasn't really clutch. That was just more like, okay, just please get my tray. So we can't really give them
No,
too
don't
much.
take this from Squirmer. Don't take this from Squirmer. That's a 1v1 clutch. What are you trying to imply here, Dallas, huh? That round could never have happened without
Were
Squirmer.
you trying to insinuate that every single first blood is a clutch?
You know what? If you're an entry player, sometimes it feels that way, right? The game's not going your way. Sometimes you need that clutch factor in your gene. You go, yeah, I got my one. Sometimes that's what your team needs. And I think that a lot of this game, specifically on this map, has been really important for the entry, for the first bloods. And if you get the first blood, it really sets the tone for the remainder of it, which is true for most games, but it's especially so right now. UCF losing first blood, you see them really slow down even further, and they started to stall a lot, which is a problem that plagued them in Ascent. You can't let that happen. Get first blood, push forward, and use that as a driving point.
Well, Hardy in the way here. Looking to go ahead and push up on the B side. You saw all the utility being put on there just to clear out those tripwires, but even then more so, is it a little bit of a fault? Is it a little bit of a decoy maybe? I think so, because already you invested so much. You push up, you use the Trailblazer, and you're saying, we don't even want to go here. A little bit awkward to say the least, but hey, maybe you can meet him in the middle of the map. You know, you really can. With the Nico in the hand of Converse in a round like this, there's not much you can really do. You're relying on that utility, and on the other side of the map, you're just relying on your guns. And utility isn't going to clear out a map for you. It's not going to kill every single player. Guns sure as heck can, but with nothing but a sheriff to play with and kind of waiting for these upgrades to come right at you. Once again, it's another scenario where you're saying, not really so sure. But hey, 3v2 though, it's pretty darn close for Converse. They made a valiant attempt so far, but with barely any help to the name of Moby right now.
One enemy
Gonna
remaining.
find something else, and I don't know if that's the case there. Already cleaned up house there with the rest of the three that are surviving here for UCF. They've made this game look pretty detrimental there for a little bit, but it's another case to where you may be looking at a Lotus game, bud, because this entire half.
And it's a great way for UCF to plug their point home, send us into an 8-8 position tied up here on this map, and just say, we can take this A site. I know we had difficulties on one side or the other on our previous two maps. B site for our last one, A site initially for Ascent, but we are strong on both here for this map, and we want to make sure you have no safe space here.
I think another thing it really comes down to, I mean, as you mentioned earlier, first bloods are so important on a map like this, but even more so, as I mentioned, these hero plays, it's kind of, not even the first bloods, just kind of how the map is played. Control. And we're not really seeing too much of that from Converse on this defensive side. They're giving up a lot pretty consistently, I'd say. And by the time they don't want to get around to a retake, it just feels like they're kind of at a deficit for what they really want, of how they want to execute. They don't really have all the resources at hand, especially looking at a point like this where you're losing important players early on too. I mean, your first blood, it's not just about the first blood, it's about who is it. And Converse, to have a retake, to have no breach for it. I mean, your Fade, sure, you have an initiator, but she doesn't do nearly what breach is capable of doing. And that's just a lack of resources. Once again, no flashes there to kind of overtake, to overwhelm, and even then push back into that attacking side. And it just results in UCF being able to just kind of look at everything without having to ever stress about having to turn their heads for a second.
Another great round from UCF Gold. They swing into the B site very effectively. They used the boost pack to get off the ground because they did have a crossfire. They had to cage it off from B market, that angle there. They step up off the ground. They get a little bit more elevation. They swing through the trap wire. They boom bot out towards Boba. And the rest of it is them putting down plant and escaping back towards B main. But that wasn't just a solo one-dimensional approach for UCF. They had moved the player towards bottom mid. They put them at the entrance into courtyard. They wanted to make sure that they had someone there for the side of UCF Gold. It was Jason. They pivoted them back. They don't need that utility necessarily. Sit a little bit further. Make sure no one from Converse is working that flank, and it's an easy approach to defend that site push and that plant from inside of B main. You just got to play smart, and they did very well for it. That gives them the round advantage that they had to climb so hard for, Dallas. And now, when you got the advantage, you want to put it up to double digits, and Converse have limited weapons. It's a thrifty round for them. And it's hard pressed to find success on either side. And it's back to A, where that elbow has been demonstrably the biggest factor for success for both teams.
It's hard for them to find success even then with full lives in hand. So, I mean, in a point like this, you gotta have to at least have some kind of trump card to work with. You gotta have something that just really secures these rounds, and already with the first blood to work with, that's a great stand. Raze is out of the game now. You're hoping to showstopper from the opposing side, from your Raze to at least go ahead and get another kill. This kind of round like this, we've talked about all these wild cards coming out from the side of Converse, or coming towards Converse over and over again. They're getting served them left and right. Finally, it seems like Converse may actually have themselves a shot where they can pull out a thrift. They can kind of turn one of these rounds on its head when it matters the most. And in a 4v1, I think you can go ahead and kind of call it that, to at least once again keep this game in equilibrium to where they have to say, we're finally in the depth of it after going back and forth. We got the lead by at least by one. You know that we're just going to keep this game of limbo continuing what seems like forever. At a game like this, especially at a stage like this and how long this has been going on, you have to say that overtime just feels inevitable.
Yeah, it seems like a hard time coming, right? We almost had it on map 2. It was a somewhat close game throughout map 1. This map, back and forth action, and it has to be that way because Converse know they can't give UCF a big swing of rounds because they'll turn 2 rounds in a row into 5 like they did at the beginning of this half. They'll turn 3 rounds in a row into 6 like they did in Ascent and they did on our second map of the day. They are so darn good at using momentum, they have to deny that. And getting a round like that on a thrifty round win is major. It's a huge victory for them, and it comes off the back of the first input denial over towards Elbow. Headshot kill with the Sheriff. It slowed down the pursuit for UCF around that bend, which just made things so much more difficult as the rest of the team attempted to extend out of main and into sight with no safety net behind it. If you don't have that elbow to cut down alley approach from inside of Elbow, you really have nothing on that side. It's way too open. It's way too easy, even if you have worse weapons, and Converse take full advantage of it. You can see UCF being very patient, very concerned is what I would say. Yeah. Knowing what they just faced last round, they have to play even smarter for this one as they'll rotate over to B instead.
They're going to go at it from a very static angle, is the easiest way to put it. Just kind of going ahead and funneling through main. No real deviation from the normal. Going towards that middle area of the map, looking for that market control, and even more so you know that there's no real cypher trips to have to worry about because, well, quite frankly, you haven't really ran into any obstructions yet. Going ahead, breaking out that cause of divide off the back of a pick. No chance for real trades happening here. And a Rolling Thunder coming out for the exchange. You know that obviously a singular player may be trapped, but everybody else with so many guns already stationed towards that beginning area, you're eventually going to swing into what feels like a shooting gallery. And that just happens one more time here for UCF. So a good stance once again for them, saying that we're now in the point to where we found that equilibrium. We found the lead. And that's all it came down to. Converse had one for the longest time in the game. They had to hold on to it. It doesn't matter what the margin is, so long as at least by one. That back and forth. Who took the first punch? And by the time that Converse was able to hit twice, UCF has now gotten 3 blows, it feels like, back-to-back. And now they're the one who has 1 foot forward. So this kind of foot race here, it is so neck and neck that it literally comes down to just not having a hero play. It comes down to consistency, and we just haven't really noticed that on either side. It has been dismantling over and over and over and over again that nobody has found themselves a solid sense of how to play this game, that investing in something as big as an operator, knowing that you're inevitably going to lose that, I feel. It's a guarantor. Just feels like a lot. Every single decision has to be considered of not only whether or not it'll be able to kind of be relevant in a round like this, but what will happen better yet if I'm sure to lose it in the next.
You can call VALORANT a game, it's like a race. You gotta reach the end point, you have to reach the finish line. But unlike normal races, where you can't touch your opposition. You have to run alongside them. You're sucker punching the dude next to you. You're tripping him up at the line, right? It turns into a game of inches and much less a testament to human athleticism to get that speed down the lane. It comes more into a battle of keeping yourself on your feet while trying to get the guy next to you off the board. And it is a true battle for these two teams. Start on A, they don't like it. They move to courtyard, it doesn't work, so they hit up B main. And this is where we see UCF find a lot of success. The plant goes in default. They have the man advantage, but they don't have the number count here, Dallas, to feel comfortable enough to sit inside B main with all 3 remaining players to hold a post plant so anything can happen for a spray down. Rudy gets a 1-for-1. They hold back. They know that there's only Excite left, but the question is where? The Tendrils lead them to a single individual. They tell a tale, but where's the secondary market player? Rudy won't peek. Squirmer can't do anything either. Operator collected and Excite says, all right, guys, we may give them 11. I'm not giving them an operator. They almost did with Rudy watching that angle. What a jump shot to get it. UCF Gold still get the win, and that's enough for them. They're 2 rounds away from winning this one out and moving on in the lower playoffs here.
Still, is it really worth the cost, man? We talk about it back and forth, 1 by 1, keeping these margins so close. 2 feels like a country mile in a game like this. For 1 feels reachable, but 2, we talked about when do these punches double down. And that's a double down that's not only just in terms of making sure to kind of switch up the leads, but doubling down on one that's already established. One that feels shaky for the sake of what? I mentioned an operator that I said already feels inevitable to be dropped eventually. To where it feels like now, not only have you made sure that that gun was in the game, and you're saying, is it worth really dropping in the case of it? But is it worth sacrificing going for a retake just to save it? Well, we'll see. It better have a big impact in at least one of these next rounds to at least show that it's worth it.
JSP dumps out util. Rudy will get the plant, and now you're looking at a very interesting post-plant position for UCF Gold to be with it. It's not in default. It's slightly there. But look at the defensive setup they're playing with. 1 player towards B main. They're not even inside of it because a dark cover goes down. The rest are holding close. What was the attempt here? So much on the line, and this is what you do with this.
What?
And you're using your Rolling Thunder?
This hurts. It hurts.
It's a 1v4. A Rolling Thunder does nothing for you here. There's over 30 seconds of time left on the spike, it feels like. They have all of the time in the world. It took more time in the post plant than there was in the actual round before it. That is such a loss to UCF Gold's back pocket, Dallas. It is unbelievable. And Converse will now use that to head into the next round.
They'll also use that up. Give it back over to J. Crew once more, who never really lost in the process to begin with, but still 4 players alive off the back of a round like that. That's your biggest detriment there. How much can you really hold on to? I talk about what's inevitable to lose. And honestly, I mean, the money, that's the one thing that we could have seen UCF actually at least go ahead and make expensive, I'd say. But knowing that last round and how much of kind of a fold over it felt, you're kind of left wondering of what happened. It was there, but it wasn't there off the back of anything important, really. It wasn't there with actual substance behind it. And well, what does have substance in a round like this, though? I mentioned that opera not really doing too much, but hey, you still some pretty good starts, and even then, better follow-ups here from Ruby. Able to go ahead and get here 3 to kind of show that not only am I going to equalize, but an advantage, a very quick one with a followed-up cosmic bite off the back of it. They're saying, honestly, this Asher's running this map as the moment stands.
Sight will pivot around. Yes, hiding within the astral smoke, but UCF Gold. More concerned about the Prowler that comes around. Squirmer being forced away. Tethered in. With that guiding light, they push Excite here. They try, but they can't get the shot. Finally, Jason's there. And the right frag for Squirmer. 12-10, our current scoreline. 1 round away for UCF Gold to upset and take down the #1 seed from their side, Converse Nightblood, where they had done so before in a 2-game series, now requiring a 3rd.
I need this.
And it's not even a great buy from Converse.
That's something.
That goes there.
It's enough.
I mean, we've seen them clutch with Sheriffs and a Marshal.
We've done that for both sides, though. We've seen all kinds of stuff today. I don't even really know what's real anymore. But I tell you, maybe dreaming, maybe a nightmare. Who knows? But I can tell you, we hit 13 here in this round. I'm waking up, and it seems like, well, I'm kind of getting slapped right out of it.
A 4v2 already. UCF
I know
goals.
exactly.
Dallas, they're dominating. They have the man
Free.
advantage. They
you know
know
they're
theft.
rotating towards B. Neural theft. I mean, you pop whatever you want at a point like this. Yeah.
There is utility stacked up here for a Cypher, which does slow down UCF. And that was a problem. That was an issue on Ascent. They would rush into the B site. They would get stuck by utility. They would play too slow. They get gate kept, would stall out, and it became a problem. Can't let that happen here. Moby, 1v1 gets theirs, but can't get it afterwards. B-Niper and a paint shell to zone him out. Now creates a 3v1 scenario for J. Cruel, and J. Cruel is one of the best to do it. But to do so here would be an unbelievable and unprecedented scenario. They work in from alley, able to take down Rudy. Back corner, can they see? Round the bend,
Oh my God!
B-Niper as well, and it's a 1v1. J. Crew will tap Squirmer. He's a clutch. Tell me he can't clutch one more time, Dallas, because UCF Gold have punched their ticket into the losers final to get their chance back at redemption to move into the grands afterwards as well.
I mean, it was there. It was there. Every single round, quite frankly, it really felt there. But I mean, still, just knowing that obviously, Central Florida.